we're back on the Tru-Mon show. We're gonna go, Arthur, again about the subject of self-obsession, of course, because it's something that is deserve a lot of attention. I sense that. So I read your paper. What you wrote on, I think it's on your website, and you about how we have fallen in that fallen state, in that default state, the dream of hell, that's been created for man. So I read that old paper that you wrote, and I found it very, very, very interesting, for sure, very on point. And the psychic ring, I'm just going to read the first thing you wrote here, but it's sanitized, wrote to us, you say. The psychic ring is conducted by Satan, a man. All Freemason worship as the grand architect, the creator of the dream of hell for man. Satan is a man. So I would like you to develop on this and maybe extend, how have we got in this mess? How did we ended up falling for the default state? Because we all pretty much fell for that default state. You're born dead with life. I said it in a previous show. You're born dead with life. It's up to you to activate your mind, activate your brain, do something with your life, because your brain doesn't want you to be a big success. That's not what's happening inside. It's the default state. It's very, and it's true, like you say, invitation, initiation, definition, instruction. We've been instructed on everything about life. Life is so defined, like they define everything, but man is undefinable. This is the thing. So extend on this, Arthur.
The Ringing Cedars books, Vladimir Migra pointed out in one of the books, I don't know which book it is, and it touched on a situation where there was a man long ago, pre the system of ancient Egypt, and it's what I'm about to explain is sort of tying into what we've been thinking, and this is sort of a point of view. We can't prove any of this, but it sort of makes a lot of logical sense to us, and it's been with us probably since about 2006, 2007, before we read the books, and that sort of validated and made it even clearer for us through those reading those books. And what he says is that there was a man, and I'm going to garnish this because we're going to add our bit to this as well, is that there was a man who probably got a bit full of himself at a time when man was creating man, was creating man, was creating man, was creating man, creating man. And so the tribe's growing and it's spreading, and every man's unique and original, right? And so there's no sameness. And that connection with reality would mean that we don't get inside another man's head and to define that man's life. So something happened along the way where maybe a man in the bigger growth of the tribes of man had made a suggestion to another man, or maybe another man had contemplated and asked a question, or something's happened, and this man made a suggestion about maybe something, and the man liked it, and then that sort of began another question, maybe from someone else in the tribe or whatever, but something of this situation had happened. And the man who made the suggestion probably began to start feeling full of himself, started thinking he was a bit more important because he was making suggestions that others were liking and they're coming back. So that may have been the first instance of an ego that ever existed.
Can I just interject and you can carry on? But that must also mean that to even be asking the question of each other, man's already started to doubt somehow. Whereas before, probably if a man had a question, they would just sit and contemplate, sure that the answer was there in the consciousness. But so there must have even been a bit of a doubt for someone to ask. But then again, it is conjecture. But
this is conjecture. This is just one way of looking at possibility.
Because it's not only fear inside of us, it's very much doubt and delay. We favor doubt and delay over action.
Yeah.
Well, back then, when this began, there wouldn't have been any fear or anything. The innocence would have still been there to some point. It's just that a man started thinking about himself as being of some influence over the tribe, and it may have grown And back then, we're not talking about lives we're living for 80, 100, 20 years. Back then, there probably was eternal lives as man, and because the cells can regenerate forever. So we're assuming that we didn't know what death was even back then. And again, we're talking really non-linear. We're not talking linear as if some beginning happened, and we're just making some reference point to a circumstance that began the system and how all this unfolded. So anyway, this guy probably got a bit too full of himself over noticing the influences he was having amongst other tribal people. And he may have started to elevate himself without even realizing he was doing it. Maybe, I don't know, who knows what. But something out of this would have begun the idea that maybe he thought that there was a God outside of us. He started disconnecting because he was getting more and more full of himself. And that definition that he had imagined into existence could have seen the beginning of separation. He was the one that started to separate, not even realizing that he'd been separating. And he may have started to question gradually that there may have been a God or something, and he was putting this in other people's heads, thinking that maybe God effed up about man and that man wasn't perfect, and he wanted to talk to God. And so he probably was putting it out there. I want to talk to God about man because look, here I am, I'm advising and making suggestions to my brothers and sisters, and hey, you fucked up. How come you didn't create man perfectly? And look at my situation and what I'm doing, da da da. I'm not saying this is exactly how it happened, but something like this would have happened. And he may, if he got so full of himself where his head is spinning with his own self-adoration,
self-obsession,
his self-obsession, where all this began, he may have not even sensed God. That was already talking to him through everything that existed, that disconnection. And because he felt God wasn't talking to him, or he couldn't sense God was talking to him, through this gradual descent into his self-obsession, he decided to create a dream to force God to come out to talk to him about the situation of man. Now, this is no different to a teenager who wants to get attention from the family and screaming for love, and so goes out and creates destruction and chaos to try and draw attention to the teenager, right? In a calling out, which is a common thing. This happens a lot. So maybe this man, not so much from the trauma or the emotional side, but from an egocentric, arrogant side, he decided to create a dream to force man to commit spiritual suicide, to force God to come out to talk to him. Something like that, right?
Yeah, because if you have a deep connection with nature and stuff, you feel it around you. You feel that divine vibe. You don't feel the need to seek for God, absolutely, or to come and talk to you.
Exactly. Well, something delusional, something of the fantasy of the illusion, something that's gone inside this guy's head, influencing others who are under his suggestive ideas, began this. Because now we're talking to a system, because the moment you're putting a suggestion and the man who's influenced by the suggestion is performing it, that's the system, right? That's how the system works. So it could be that in forcing man to commit spiritual suicide, he started to contemplate on, I've got to make this happen. So this would have evolved gradually over a period of time into war, conning man into creating war and chaos, rape, pillage, plunder, maybe putting suggestions in another man's head about another man's wife and having, sex, or whatever. I don't know. It's just crazy stuff. Anything to cause man to create conflict to such a point that man would kill another man, and that to try and force God to come out to talk to him. Say, look, your man, what your creation is stuffed. You really fucked up. You haven't got this worked out.
And not only that, we're so fucked up that we kill in God's name.
Exactly. And that, I mean, if you look at the system, just about everything of the system is designed to separate us, make us individuals, put us at war. Just the fact of rich and poor, have and have not. That whole way it's set up, and it's ridiculous, because the people, I think, they just don't look and realize that there is no way in the system everybody can be rich. everybody can be truly comfortable. There is no way, because if you're rich, you need the have-nots to do all your dirty work.
For you to be rich, yeah.
For you to be rich. You cannot, it's so, and yet it doesn't seem to go into people's heads. There is no way, like at schools, they tell the kids, you can be the greatest. Everyone can be the greatest. No, the system is set up that there's only a few who can be the greatest, and they need everyone underneath them for them to be the greatest.
Exactly. What's his other words, like your what's fantastic? What are those words? It's, you know, people make.
Special. My favorite hated word. My worst hate word. You know, I hate that word, because if you say to your child you're special, you're also telling your child that other people around them aren't as special. You're straight away creating that division. And I always notice how that word is used with children all the time at schools. Today, girls, we're going to have a special visitor, or we're going to have a special day. Now, what are you saying about the other visitors or the other days? Or as soon as you use that word special, you're putting something on a pedestal and saying everything else around it, whether it's people, animals, situations, are not as good.
The whole English language
you're creating that division.
In fact, everything we talk about through English and communicate and interaction through the robotic programs of English is that. And this is all alphabet languages. We're doing it all the time. Now, this would have come out of this man who contemplated. Imagine this guy, he said, right, I got to get God to come out and talk to me. And he contemplated on this all day, every day. And he would have remotely been putting pictures in other men's heads, making them think that these pictures are their own creation, and manipulate them through remote projection, remote viewing, remote control. So this would have been the beginning of the symbols of the tree, which is the forbidden tree, with the snake coiled around the tree, and the snake talking to Eve while the snake is coiled around the forbidden tree. And then Eve is now under the influence of the suggestion of the snake. That's what the forbidden tree is, or the forbidden apple is: explanation, instruction, education, suggestion, meaning definition, stereotyping, right? Brainwashing, inculcation, indoctrination, right? All these things is the snake seducing Eve, because Eve is man, the snake is man, Adam is man. So you can see the trail of this agenda of they've got to get inside our heads. So this guy would have begun the beginning of the occults. The guy who started may not even been involved in anything. He may have been remotely apart, but because he was communing, like channeling to others in the tribes who didn't even know where it was coming from, they elevated him already as their God, their higher power, talking because they're hearing the voices inside their heads. And whatever pictures he was putting in their heads, they wouldn't even pick it up, because the innocence back then would have been so pure. So people were vulnerable, and if they had no reference point, there's nowhere to tell us this scenario, and we wouldn't know what hell was or anything. So it's a whole new frontier of what man is entering into, right? So unless we're really using our senses and tuning in that there's some deception going on here, some of us, you know, when we say man created, some of them, the quirks of our uniqueness, originality, may leave us open to be manipulated. Now, how hard would it be to seduce a man through the snake to Eve and get Eve to fall more in love with the suggestions, the definitions put in their heads, and the gradualism of this, like when we send kids to school, and the gradualism of the gradualism, you know, I remember talking about that vortex, that little tiny dot, right? And then we're going to get them to focus on it, contemplate more on it, bring the spell. Come on, guys. We're going to bring you right down in the vortex of the system.
And then they mesmerize them more with the computers. I mean, you just look at a young child when they see a television set, especially if they're not used to it, or see a computer, and it's just like, they're just sucked into it. And I mean, I'm still the same. I remember, because I grew up without a television. And if I went to someone's house or I was somewhere, there was something on a screen, I would find it almost impossible not to be kind of sucked in to looking, even though there were people around who might be talking. I mean, now it's common. I think children are more, because everywhere you go, there are screens. But when I was growing up, there weren't screens everywhere. But that just being sucked into it.
Yeah, well, you had the Industrial Revolution, then you had the printing press, and all these things came with it as well. And back then they had tablets and, you know, scratching in alphabets and images. So we've always had ways. But look, this seduction is in every facet of the system. Everyone who's in the system has fallen for the seduction, through the temptation, the seduction into it. So it's a blueprint, and this is the mark of the beast that they talk about in the Bible, because the mark is definition, right? It's the blueprint of another man's suggestion. That is that robotic software program that causes the man to move his arms and legs and carry out the instructions of whatever the intent was that was behind the blueprint of that seduction, right? That intention. So you see this in every facet of the system. Everyone who's educated is doing it. Everyone who's been under the influence of another man, under this inculcation, are doing it. So this thing I've been pointing out is at the heart of what is man's fall. So we've fallen into the hypnotic suggestion or seduction or temptation of the snake. So they all worship the snake, and that's why you see the pharaohs have the snake and the symbols of the snake. You'll see in the high priestesses of the occults, you'll see the priestesses of the snake. You know, changing subject, but it's the same thing. Jacqueline Onassis would have been a priestess of the snake. She did the fatal shot in JFK, in the assassination of JFK. She would have been carrying out a ritual under the guidance of the snake, because she disappeared for 2 weeks. She was with Aristotle Onassis,
2 months,
or 2 months, whatever it was, before she came back to America and met up with JFK and did the Houston trip, where the whole thing was set up for this satanic ritual. Now she was under this influence as well, right? So you'll find all this this same with Diana Spencer when she was assassinated, right? She was murdered. It's clear. You'll see these kind of methods over and over and over again. You'll also see in the intel operatives that people that come very close to us, they come as friends. They'll come and talk like we're talking. They'll come and talk like about consciousness and freedom. And they come as these snakes to try and manipulate, because see, we're so practiced falling into the trauma or falling into the hypnotic suggestion because we've done it from so young. We can't recognize when another spell, because it is a spell, is being done on us, because they've come so close to put the suggestion in us, and we get influenced and we sit there, yeah, it sounds right, it feels right, you know, and they're fucking with your head, right? This is all through the system, because on another scale, the enemy, the occultists who evolved into the power structure of this influence, of this priest, this idiot that had started it, they've got to maintain power and control, because the goal is to cause all of man to commit spiritual suicide. Now, maybe most of the occultists high up and low down don't know about the bigger end game. They don't know what is behind this. It's possible that they've all been, because they're all inculcated, they're all under this spell as well, that they only know as much as they know in the manipulation inside their head, right? That's making them do what they do as occultists. But you will find the intelligence networks is there to protect their power and control so they can carry out their outcomes. They don't want any interference that will slow them down or put an end to the objective that started them as the, well, let's go back to the Norman conquest and
chosen ones.
You know, the chosen ones who were the Canaanites. They are the Israelites, the white skin, blue eye, grey eye. They're the Mountbatten families today. They are the you can call them the Merovingian bloodline, sort of, but they're the House of Windsor. They are the Diana Spencer bloodlines. They are the George Bush family bloodlines, Bill Clinton's. You'll find, and it is all from one family, one tribe, where this idiot man did this remote control, worked on them and got them to worship him as their almighty God. And they set him up under Baal worship, right? And whatever, you know, Mystery Babylon, all the other stuff that came out of this. So you'll see the intention to get man to commit spiritual suicide to such an extent, to force God to come out to talk to him or to his family, right? But I think some of them have worked out that this is all bullshit, that they've lost the plot. And you find amongst them how someone get assassinated themselves, that there's arguments and fights amongst these families, that some of the children don't want to do this, don't want to go down the road. Now maybe they get cut off and they don't have access to commercial dollars and privileges and exclusivity that comes with the power of this world, right? There's so many things, but the point is that from one seed, from this dream, this intention, unfolded the nightmare with the intent to force man into committing spiritual suicide, right? So it isn't the war, it isn't the Cold Wars, it isn't the rape, pillage, and plunder, it's the temptation, the seduction into the inculcation that gets a man to do it is where the problem is. And we should be focusing on this, because all those outcomes won't happen if we fix it where this subtle, sinister venom of the snake puts the toxic poison of suggestion in another man's head, who's vulnerable to the explosion of the programming of those instructions inside their body, and gets them to start doing it. It's staggering.
And I think that maybe we got to not assume that his intention at the beginning was totally malevolent either. He could have just not thought out the consequences of what was happening. But as it's gone past the many years of this family being in control, the more they get into their intellects, and the icy intellect, the more they're shutting down their hearts and shutting down their conscience. And that's why they can see us just as the chattel, as the sheep, and and because we behave like that, they've actually got a justification for saying, no, these are our sheep, we need to look after them. They've actually got the justification because we behave like the sheep who need looking after. We're helpless, we're lost. Where's our water? Where's our electricity? What do I do? Who's going to help me? Who's going to protect my stuff for me? That's how we behave. And so that gives them their justification for continuing, taking care of their sheep. They're just like the shepherd takes care of the sheep, but we need to sell off those now. We're going to kill a couple of those for some meat. That's how we are to them, because they've gone so far into this icy intellect that their consciences are dead,
Well, the program, just one more, go on.
It's very important also for the system to keep the sheep entertained. And when we talk about self-obsession, we cannot avoid the music industry. And that's what I wanted to bring you to on that subject, because I see something. I cannot really tell you what's right or wrong, and who am I to say what's right or wrong, but the vibration is something weird. It's an harvest of energy. There's something there. I can feel it, sense it. It's not like something very natural. So and about creating special people, like superstars, like you said, someone special. This is very important for the self-obsession to be perpetuated, because if we idolize people, we encourage everybody else but ourselves also in that process. So we lose ourselves a lot.
If you just to bring it into this, what you brought up, so let's go back to there's paradise and man in paradise, and none of this stuff's going on. And then this guy starts to create, I'm going to have to create oppositions out of the paradise. And so through remote control, he's manipulated some of a family, of a tribe, who became the beginnings of Mystery Babylon, all the secret stuff, all that stuff that was done to them, that created evolution, came out of paradise. And then on the other part of paradise, we have to turn them into all the serfs and commoners and downtrodden and all that. So that was done out of paradise too. And there's this man behind the scene manipulating everyone. The whole lot, contemplating it, and no one knows that's him. And he probably, when he stops doing it, he gets out from hiding behind the trees where he is, and he's back in mixing in with the tribe, and no one even knows what he's doing. And he could have been developing it further and further. So the power and control that mesmerizes man, that is the system, right, has to happen all the time, because every child that arrives comes from paradise. They come with the innocence already built in. So the mesmerizing and traumatic stuff happens, the attack begins in the womb. So when you talk about rock music today, Rastafarian music, doesn't matter.
Any kind of music. The whole thing is fantasy. Anything.
Well, they say in the Bible that Satan made music. He was a musician himself. He was a singer. You know, he sang songs. You know, and so if you see a lot of the old esoterics, he's seen as you'll see the symbol of the harps and that, and you'll see all the old symbolisms. So music, he would have sung songs, and in the songs would have been the images of this seduction as well, right? And he would have influenced those to do it. So whether he was in on it, but no one knew that he was in it when he was mixing in within the cabal of the highest level of the priesthood that it was evolving out of his tribe, or whether he stayed remotely disconnected from the whole thing all the time he's manipulating them, I don't know. But it seems to me like he would have been both. And he would have then trained his son to do this, and then that son then trained his grandson, and this carried on. And that's why the seed of this nightmare continues on through the generations. And every time we had the wipeout where most of the civilizations all went down in one big, wipeout, 1200 years of sunrise ago. Here we are back again to repeating it all over again, probably far worse than what happened back then. So the seduction through music is very powerful. So it doesn't matter how we dress up the music and the mathematical score, because all music is charted through mathematics, right? And the mathematics is all equally related to alphabets. So when you look at hieroglyphics and alphabets and mathematics and geometry, they're all interconnected. So when you look at musical charts, and everything's to the scale, and all the instruments are built, they're all satanic. The musical score is all satanic, and everything that comes out of it is satanic. And it is a song that was sung by the man who got everyone to sing his song. So everybody who's caught up in music's already under this.
And there's nothing unique and original. I mean, if you think about it, when it's not the music that's all being around is not just something that's sprung forth inspirationally in the moment from the soul as you're in nature or something. It's all repetitive. It's all the same stuff. Everyone's playing the same notes and the same things and the same that. And just because someone puts a few notes together this way and someone else puts them together this way, it doesn't really make it unique and original.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all the same thing.
But don't forget, the heart of man is still so closely connected. Most of us truly want to love our brothers and sisters. Most of us still want to love man and nature. The heart. So the heart, of man, the harp and the heart, all this stuff, it's so connected. So the greatest lying lie is the one closest to the truth. And all the seductions and all this that happens is so close to the truth, but we can't seem to detect that malevolent intent that's hidden in it, right? So it's so easy for all of us. I mean, I grew up with music, and I loved all the music from the 1963, 64, and heavily, from 66 right through to the mid-70s, which is my biggest influence in contemporary music. And I still love that psychedelia period. But it is mapped out. And everything that happened to me was mapped out. In spite of every man's heart, it came and took on the influences of contemporary music and changed the genres of the sounds. They're still working with the mapped out musical score charts and the musical instruments. So even though we might adapt an acoustic instrument from 500 years ago and evolved into the electric guitar, and then all the different offshoots of the electric guitar and electric bass and all that, it's the same with woodwind instruments and the drums and the rhythm kits of percussions. It's all an evolution of the mapping out. It's not an evolution of man's inspiration in the moment, where they just got a bit of stick and a bang against the wood and whistling with some leaves or something and creating something in the moment.
No, because they all play with the same instrument. They all have bass, they all have guitars, drums. Like it rarely varies.
And it's interesting. I've heard of someone saying, one of the greatest successes of those behind the system is they have trained us to be our own sheepdogs. And music is a huge way that we are trained, because if you think of all the lyrics of all the music out there, that's just it's so pushing, like all the soppy love songs that keep telling us we can't live without other people and we need someone else to make us happy, and you know, I'll never be all right now you're gone. And I mean, most of the music is on this dreadful level.
It's because the beginning of the jealous lover, that was this guy who started it, is the beginning of the whole system full of jealous lovers who needs man for the jealousy to be satiated. But it can never be saturated. It's impossible to satiate something that's insatiable, you know. So you find that within the seduction of music is the same message. The same message. You're not good enough. The doubt and uncertainty continues to fuck you over. That's why we pick up mapped out music. Because if we knew who we were, we wouldn't fall into the mapped out music, because we already are that music, and we'd be singing the song of our living soul. We'd be singing
and
it.
It's all in the emotion, because if you think about you're in a certain mood, and so you just want to hear that song, and you want to hear it again, and you want to hear it again, and you want to hear it again and hear it again, because you're just washing around in the washing machine of that self-obsessive emotion, and then you want to stay there. You want to keep washing around in that emotion until after a while you kind of get a bit bored of that, and so you get a bit bored of that song. But then you move on to the next song, and you roll around in the washing machine of that song. But I wanted to go back, because what you said about the harvesting of the energy, you know, that is so true. It's particularly rock concerts, but also things like the assassination of Diana Spencer, the outpouring of emotion that happened afterwards in Britain. You know, with she's gone, she was the much loved princess, and these events are created as well for that total. They get everyone just sucked into this whole swoop of emotion, and they're sucking it by. And so the music's doing that as well, all the while in a general thing. But then you go to the rock concerts and they beat up this rhythm, and everyone's just crazy. I mean, look what happened with the Beatles. People, I remember reading, or we read, that they got so pissed off that they barely played, or they would just make up stupid lyrics because the audience was screaming so much. No one was even listening to them anyway, because they got in this frenzy when they're absolutely out of control, screaming
John Lennon
over
hated
this music.
You know, all by myself.
And it kind of,
I can't live without you. I can't live. You know, we are so fucked up, man.
It kind of put people in trance also, because honestly, I look at reggae concerts, and the message into reggae music sometimes is very like go into action and burn Babylon and the whole kit. So it could potentially set an uprising after a concert. I would see it happen. Like that's what should happen. There should be an uprising after every reggae concert. But there's not.
Same message, you know, like, I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Yeah. And when I touch you, I feel happy inside. You know what I mean? Or message in a bottle. You know, like nearly every song has this. But you see what happens with those. What you're talking about is very true. There should be an uprising after all of those concerts where people are singing about the injustices and all that sort of stuff. So why isn't there? Now I can't remember if I said this on a previous show, but I remember when I studied theatre years ago, we talked about a certain playwright in Africa, and there was. A lot of the African playwrights were writing the same sort of, you know, real protest plays. And at the end of it, everyone would be like, 3 Seeds, we've got to change. We've got to change. Have their big stay, have their protest, run on the streets, and then go home. But this one playwright, whose name escapes me now, he started doing plays. And what happened afterwards, there was no big outburst of emotion. People started sitting around and talking. And describe and talking to, you know what, they bulldozed all his theatres, and they would not let his plays be performed, because they realized that he had actually got people, he wasn't putting people into that great emotion of protest, which just burns itself out, and then they go home feeling like, hey, we had a good protest, back to the beer and the TV. And so, and that was, they recognized the danger of that man, and they shut him down completely. And that's the same with us in our work. And no joke, it's the same. That's why you don't see click counters and you see censorship, You know, I mean, a lot of people write, say, how come you guys aren't becoming well known? Or, well, it's not that we want to be well known, but the information needs to be well known, not us, but the information. Yeah. So how much effort are they putting in to censor? That's why everybody who watches these videos, you are responsible to spread it. Don't have to spread us. You could recreate what the insights and share it your way if you wish. Or you can use us if you wish, but it's not about us and putting us up into glory. It's to get the information out. But don't sit around thinking someone else is going to do it for you. Don't wait around thinking if anyone else can do it. You are the one who's got to do it. Each of us have to be doing it. And if we don't, it ain't happening.
Because if you think about how many not mainstream, but alternative radio shows, etc., are out there that are big, have big followings, a lot of listeners, how many David Icke's, all this sort of stuff. Do they ever want to interview us? No. You're probably the biggest guy who's ever interviewed us. Normally it's a little guy in London with his little home studio at home who says, hey, can I do an interview? And we go, sure, that'd be great. And that's it. But literally all the mainstream guys out there in the so-called alternate, they don't have to agree with us, but wouldn't they want to have us on? Just
no, because we ask all the right questions, and that's why Alex Jones doesn't come near. You know, look, Alex Jones knows us. David Icke knows us. David Icke stayed in our house for a week. He knows us well. You know, Max Igan knows us. There's look. Sasha Stone knows us. Mark Pazia knows us. Michael Telliger knows. Michael's written to us. We've written to Michael. With Michael Telliger, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. They all know, most know us. The word is out there, right? We're not saying we are the only ones, but we get people to sit down and start thinking and talking about things and working things out, meaning they're breaking out of this spell, breaking out of this, getting them to start questioning. So we and you read through all the lifelike work, we're not about revolution. We're not about rising up in that way, because even the word rising up is a satanic thing, you know, and you'll see it, you know, it's like symbols, the dove, the white dove. There are many of these symbols of peace and that are satanically inspired. But what we're saying is it's a quiet walking away from the system and working together quietly without learning how to become strong in groups again, without the inculcation spreading amongst that group, so that we can then produce children amongst this group who can be brought up by nature again, who then create children who probably will go back to what we are all sensing needs to be done. We've got to get back to that situation. So you're going to find this kind of infiltration and the protection of the power and control of this agenda everywhere, right? So, you know, it's to us, the silence we get and the minimal support is a massive compliment. We see the opposite. We don't have any emotional attachment. Oh, nobody's listening to us. How can we get? We don't even have these thoughts in our head. We are aware of it. And sure, we will push to continue breaking boundaries. And sure, we'll come and talk on the internet like we're doing with you. Yeah. And we'll put it up on the website and we'll put it up on Facebook. But it's up to everybody who watches and reads to start spreading it. Don't just sit around. You know, if you want to start a big fire, you got to spread it. Don't sit around and think the fire ain't going to spread. You are the fire and you're spreading the fire. So we may give you the spark, we may cause whatever the beginning of a flame, fine, so be it. But don't put us on a pedestal and worship us because there's a flame that comes out of our mouths and our writings. It's not about that. The simple thing is, we've got to see that if everyone around us is a slave in a system, then we don't have freedom, in spite of how much we're waking up. We've got to get everyone around us to be free, so we have that freedom too, which means that we don't have this compromised situation spreading into the paradise or kin domains of our lives, where this peer pressure comes on our children, comes on us, you know?
But the idea of freedom also is something interesting to talk about, because many people will see freedom as something external of themselves, like you can travel into any countries whenever you want, when you want. But freedom is more something on the inside, I think. It's something I feel. It's freedom of mind, freedom of speech, whatever freedom you can have with yourself, but not being obsessed with yourself.
The heart, Jahnick.
But that's it. But the freedom, because no matter how much freedom you seek, even if they give me the right to travel or to this or to that, like I cannot cross the ocean on a raft and go to Europe. So no matter what, I'm limited by natural frontier, which is the land, the mountains, so no matter what, freedom, even if you give me the right to travel wherever I want, I still cannot do it.
No. And freedom, the problem is as well, freedom is also where most people, they got this thing, oh yeah, it means I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and they imagine they can wake up whenever they want, get out. But they don't realize that none of us can be truly free while all our brothers and sisters are still slaves. So this is why freedom comes with full responsibility to make sure that we are all free, that we all have everything we need, because we cannot be free until everybody has that. And it's the full responsibility that people don't recognize. That means freedom comes with the full responsibility to make sure you're not doing any harm, to make sure you're living your life in ways that don't enslave your brothers and sisters, that don't cause harm to nature, that don't, have you carve up rocks, etc., etc.
It's a withdrawal from dependency on another man for you to be whoever you claim to be in the life you're living. Look, again, we can have our child next to us and we say, that over there, son, is a daffodil and it's yellow. The child, the son, can see, sense, smell, hear that life form. But we're putting the picture in the head of our son, yellow daffodil, scientific explanation, right? So the child is so close to the truth. It's experiencing reality. But the suggestion put in the head is disconnecting the child from reality, right? So freedom is this too. It's freedom, dumb about freedom. We're in the definition of freedom. We're not actually being free. When we're free, we don't even have, it's not defined. You can't define freedom for another man. If you explain freedom to another man, that's stereotyping another definition that enslaves a man under the image power of the system, of the man who invented it. So it's the same with consciousness. If I explain to you what consciousness is, that is not your consciousness. That is just an idea about a consciousness I have given to you that you're now enchanted by, and it's swimming around inside you, but that ain't your consciousness, in spite of how close it appears to be the truth. It ain't the truth. So it is here where the occults have its greatest power. So talking about freedom is a lie. You either already are free or you're not. So if, for an example, if you go to the supermarket and, and you're walking all through the supermarket full of options, everything. Look, like here in Australia, you could have Bunnings in the warehouse for hardware and electricals and plumbing and nurseries and all that, because what Bunnings is, or you have Woolworths and Coles here in Australia. In America, you're going to have those very big chains, right? Now, you're walking around with your trolley and you pick that from the shelf and you grab this and that. But people think I've got freedom, but they don't. All they have are choices, because there's no creation inspired by them there. They're just carrying out what's been provided to them. So the suggestion to the child that daffodil is yellow is no different to the capital, the cornflakes you pick up from the shelf, put in your trolley. It's the same thing. So the whole system is like this. There's no freedom there. There's no consciousness there. In fact, there's no life there of a living man. We're still under the inculcation, still under that brainwashing. So the sentiments of man dreaming for freedom has been all through the time man fell. The sentiments of truth and justice and do no harm, it's been through all the generations. There's no generations ever come and gone that didn't have a good heart. They all got good hearts, and their hearts are no greater or less than any of us. It no matter how much we read through the history books and all that's been twisted and take us back through the recorded dark ages they made up, or whatever circumstances man fell into that became dark, the fact is that all of those people have got good hearts too, lost in all of this. It's all good people with good hearts and the bulldozers knocking down the Amazon. There are good people, good hearts running with fishing nets to wipe out, schools of fish. So, there are good people in the mining industry. There are good people everywhere. And most people come home to the hearts of their children and their family and their loved ones, and they really think they're doing the right thing. They don't, but the thing is they don't know, because the inculcation of the daffodil is yellow is spinning in their heads. And when when everything's been defined from so young, from your mother in the womb, about what it is to be a good woman and what it is to be a man, and what the fashion and the social engineering statements, even if those who break away from that goes into another form of social engineering and we go from rock to punk rock, it's still the same shit, right? So we get mesmerized by all the changes and adaptations to fashion and to musical fashion and to politics, and like we had Gough Whitlam that came in, and it's time. His message was his time. Barack Obama had his big mantra, which I forgot what the main mantra was. Maybe someone can put it up one day. But you'll see this ongoing repetition. Now, through the generations, all our brothers and sisters, our ancestors and descendants are those in the trolleys walking down the super aisles picking their Kellogg's cornflakes from the shelf. It could be different politics, different religion, a different adaptation to Christianity, because there's so many different offshoots of Christianity. There are so many offshoots to the Muslim faith. You know, there are so many different offshoots that come out of the Torah and the Talmud too. There are so many different offshoots from the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? There's so many different offshoots to rock and roll. There's now different expressions of Rastafarian music. So look, same with technology, you know, electronics, you know, hip hop and rap and you know, on it goes. So what we're saying, our brothers and sisters are really close to the heart of everything. Most people got good people, got good hearts. They just can't see this going on, because not only is it done to them, they're also doing it to everyone as well. So we have this polarizing, we create this reverse polarizing thing, and inside we get stuck in this vacuum and we don't know which way to go. And inside that vacuum is war, chaos, rape, pillage, plunder, murder, jealousy, greed, emotion, depression, you name it. Every single emotion that exists, we are stuck in a void. It's like we're numb to reality.
Yeah, comfortably numb.
Comfortably numb. Yeah.
Well, we are, and I think that accounts for that sort of schism in people's thinking, that sometimes they just don't seem to see that lack of logic in the way that people think about things, you know, and or they'll accept a total juxtaposition of something, you know. I can't think of a good example now, but I wanted to say also something about back to the music you're talking about. Those concerts, they are really a satanic ritual as well, because I mean, we've read quite a bit of stuff. This stuff, I remember reading something about the Doors, and it was the drummer of the Doors or something, is saying how sometimes Jim Morrison wouldn't be in the mood to sing and stuff, but he said we'd just start playing and we'd just get the beat going and just like rev it all up, and eventually he'd just go into that state and start singing and being the rock star. And say Michael Jackson, I think, talked about, you know, getting into that sort of, he seemed, you know, almost slightly possessed on stage, and he talked about this kind of feeling of possession while he's on stage doing his thing. It's like really tapping into that energy of that satanic energy, and that's what's being revved up, and that's what the crowd.
You read Harry Potter books. When you read the Harry Potter books, you fall into that state. Look, this opposite polarization, that flux, right? In that flux state is you giving up your broken will. You got a broken will. And while you're given up and broken, you can be controlled, manipulated. So music will get you into that state where you can be manipulated and controlled. Politics does it. The whole social engineering of the system, of economically, where you got poverty, you got the message that comes through the paper about poverty and unfairness and cruelty and this ongoing, you know, so you've got this thing coming at you this way, and then you got the other way, you got this coming the other way on this side. Oh, we got to stop all this that's going on this way. Oh no, we need to keep going with this. We've got to keep doing this. Look, there's 1,001 of these things, right? But sandwiched in the middle of that vortex is where everybody is. We are just like a dog. When a dog has been, like we had a missing dog, we finally got her back. But you know, we're talking about, you know, if our bigger dogs found her down and got over her, she may become submissive, right? That submissive state is where everybody is. We are all under the submission of the occults to control us and manipulate us. So what we're saying is their intentions and the outcomes of their intentions is what rules us, as the language we talk, as the songs we sing of the languages that we talk, of the arts and crafts and all the imagery, because we have submitted. And this goes back to Darkness Visible Part 5 and the sacrificing and all the missing children go missing and all the sacrificing and pinning them down and breaking their will and breaking their will, taking them to death, bringing them back, taking them to death, bringing them back until they give up and they've submitted completely. And it's in that submission, right? And that's why you have rock concerts. Because on one hand, everyone wants to come to express the pent up of everything, right? Then they all go home and go on social media or pre-social media. They all go home, go to work, and they talk about the concert. But all the time they've gone to the concert, all the time they go home and talk, they're all slaves in the system. They're all broken down. So no matter what they do, they wake up and go to bed. This includes Christian, newborn Christians. It doesn't matter what religion. All the Christians are slaves. They're all submitted.
Without mentioning the alcohol and the drugs and the concerts to that alter the state of consciousness of that.
It's all part of this. It's all part of this. And that's what the order and the chaos, right? One the other. Order, chaos, left, right, duality, yin, yang. They need this. None of this exists. There's no yin and yang. But while this is going on, it's going on and going on, we can be stuck in it.
And yeah, and that's why you get like that schism in our thinking where we can deplore the pollution of Earth and still drive our cars. We know that driving our cars is causing massive pollution, but we still drive our cars. And yet we feel awful about Earth and what's happening to Earth. And there's 1,001 examples of this where we can actually see logically that we're the cause of it, but we still don't do it. We still carry on causing the harm that we're causing, while all the while going, but what can we do to save the Great Barrier Reef?
Give it up. Walk away.
What can we do to save the Amazon? What can we do to do this? And yet we keep doing everything.
But we need the cars.
And also, as you're saying about the drugs and alcohol, that's a huge thing that they have really, they get teenagers, especially young people coming up, and it's cool to destroy yourself. And yet they've got it, and they're thinking that young people going, hey, it's a rebellious act, I'm going to drink, I'm going to take some drugs. They don't realize that all their parents went through the exact same thing anyway. But then what happens, and I say to young people, the most rebellious act you can do is not to take any drugs, not to drink alcohol, and to keep your body really clean, because then your thinking will be much sharper. And that is your rebellion against the system. Taking the drugs and drinking the alcohol and drinking the coffee and whatever is not a rebellion. It's exactly what they want you to do, and exactly what they have said. And that's why it's so easy to get drugs, it's so easy to get alcohol, it's so easy to get cigarettes, because that's exactly where they want you. So easy to
get gambling, pornography, and sex. So when, like that playwright she talked about in South Africa, those groups coming together, even though they may not have any intention, they're actually saying to the system, powers be, fuck you. When we do the Love for Life work, we're actually saying to them, fuck you, right? All these people, Fiona's talking about the young kids, instead of doing graffiti writing all over the world and going into all this reactive and going to rock concerts and going to anti-protests and then going home, right? The best ones who start working together quietly and privately, building food forests, withdrawing from the system, they're saying, fuck you, you haven't got us under this anymore.
And
you haven't got us here.
Destroying themselves. Stop destroying themselves through the food they eat, what they drink, and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, one of the reasons I think, again, it is like the playwright with our work, is that we say to people, don't believe us. Don't become a follower of us. Use your brain. Start using your brain. Start thinking yourself. Don't rely on anybody or anything. Start working it out with your brain, because that is the danger. Because once people have make those clicks inside their own brain, in their own thinking, they can never go back to sleep. And
don't give up. Don't give up.
Sorry.
Let me finish this. Don't give up, because as you're waking up, you're going to see how deeply compromised you are and how far down the compromised affects all those byproducts of this. In our relationship, we come up against this all the time. All in our relationship, day after day. There's not a day that this isn't going on. We have arguments, I can just turn on her and say, oh, you're stupid. Why'd you do that? All kinds of shit comes up. And because we practiced it for so long. But the point is, we may become conscious and sense the bigger picture, and we need to nurture that and keep practicing this. Not the practicing of the occults, but learning to train that attitude that frees us from being under this, right? So don't give up each time you notice this shit. What you got to do, going back to last week's show, you got to hold a bigger dream. You got to see the bigger picture. So that even though you may see the shit come up of this emotion, you go, oh, laugh at it. Okay. We laugh at it. We talk about it, right? Go back to the bigger picture. Change the way we are with each other. Change the way, right? Like losing this little dog for 3 days, it was one of the most traumatic periods of a long part of my life. Look, I spun out more from this little dog missing than the 16 police coming here and all the threats to put me in jail and the assassination attempts when bullets fired at me. None of that fazed me. But this little dog going missing, it was like David and Goliath. I was brought literally inside to my knees inside. I started taking it out on the dog. You stupid idiot. What a dumb dog.
Not to the dog when the dog was missing.
Yeah, because inside me, deep down, is the shit of my own childhood and things that happen. Now, this stuff all comes up. And I sit down going, wow. And I'm looking at it even now going, geez, I'm fucked up.
And it's all self-obsession.
Wow.
It's all self-obsession.
Wow.
Because it all comes back to how is it affecting me? And this is what we tend to do, especially like when someone dies and we all go into crying and we're not crying for the dead person. They're fine. They're not, I mean, either one way or the other, either remembered who they are, they're in contact, or they're not. We're crying for ourselves. We're crying for our self-obsession because we now miss them because they're not in our lives, because they used to do this for us or they provided this for us. It's all about us. It's not about the dead person.
Let the dead bury the dead.
Which is what the system is.
That's very true. That's very true. And the other, it's like, and what Arthur said about don't give up, I actually read the other day in a book, just a crappy teenage novel, but it was a phrase that I liked. It said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And I think that's what we've really got to do, because as you start to wake up and you start to see the level of your compromise, the level of your fucked upness, you can get frozen. You can get stuck, or you just run back, because we have plenty of people who've come here, they start to see it all and they run away again, which means really they're perpetuating their hell. So really, if you really want to get through, to wake up, to find that calm, find that peace, you have to keep going. You have to just keep going through the hell, keep facing it, keep looking at it.
This came back to this order out of chaos. In there is the we will lead every revolution against us. If I can get you to think what I want you to think and get you to set into motion these dreams, I'll get you to create the outcomes I intended for you. So the occultists do this to us. And so all the saviors and messiahs is inside this fluctuated submissive state. All the heroes and worshipping of anything, God, is inside this. You'll find the whole fucking crap is inside it. But when we wake up and we drop it, and none of this is going on anymore, each of us is the power. Yeah. And without the glory, there's no glory. There's no remembrance of who we are in that way. Look, the truth is that when this is all over, and the occultists can't win something that's impossible to win, because a fantasy, it never leads you to reality and the rewards of reality. It only leads you to the emptiness of nothing the whole time they pursue it. So when this is all over again, and what remains is the living, and the paradise is blossoming, we see us, meaning when this war is ended, I would like to be able to sleep in a hammock for 6 months and never to be remembered again, or be completely forgotten about, because that's what it's about. I have been fighting this, not in this. I mean, we went through this to come out of this to realize the bigger picture. But the point was, we do this to stop the influences of this shit coming all around us. We want to end it so that wherever I am as a man has not that stuff going on, so I can go and rest, and when I wake up I don't have to be seeing this going on anymore somewhere. It's gone, because it means that as far and wide as I can penetrate with my consciousness is my brothers and sisters who are free of this shit. And if we're free of it, we're back to the heart of how we all live, because we are not a threat to each other. We're not jealous lovers where we need each other to be brainwashed slaves so we can get what we need from the supermarket and buy the Woolworths Kellogg's cornflakes from the shelves. We don't need to go to the political system to vote and take the political parties from the shelves. We don't need the rock and roll music in the music stores, and we pick the different music we want. All this is gone because we are already all these things and more. in fulfillment.
We don't need emotional fixes.
Yeah, there's none of that. You cannot. What is it? You can't satiate something that's insatiable. It's impossible. It's you already are by allowing to be there, or you're not. So again, it's when we end the struggle that the real growth begins.
But to end the struggle is okay, but to end the struggle also we have to end the cognitive dissonance, and that's big part of self-obsession right there. Our cognitive dissonance regarding reality, regarding, like Fiona said before, we know drinking alcohol is no good for us. It's not supporting our journey on earth, and why we drink it. We know smoking cigarette is no good, but we still smoke it. But we want to we give shit to people that think they live on a globe, but we smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol. Like, it's total nonsense. It's, especially when it comes to no space thing. That's there's lots of cognitive dissonance there, and
it's very cunning. But if we go back to that picture of the supermarket, and there we are with our trolley going down the aisle picking, right? That is every time we're inside that supermarket, it is built out of men and women broken down. It's not shelves of steel and metal, timber and packaging and plastic. It's men and women broken down. On the shelves. We're not actually buying. Oh, it's all dead. All that stuff's dead. Even the building is dead. We're actually in the fantasy of needing a brother and a sister who had to be brainwashed for us to collect their labor so that we can have what we gave up from our living lives in nature in the food forest. So that's what you got to wake up to. When we stop relying on the system for anything anymore, and we make the commitment to break away, we can use the system in this life to completely break away from it, but we must end this dependency in this life, and to inspire the children to, through the example we all set, to show them you don't need another man for you to be a man. I mean, you don't need to walk the aisles of rock and roll and music industry and the fashion industry and the pet food shops. It wouldn't matter what. You don't need it anymore because you already got it.
If you want to look at our broken will, if you in fact thinking of smoking and drinking and the food people eat, that just shows you how broken-willed that we are, that we allow these dead nothings to have power over our will. So we think, I don't want to smoke anymore. And we don't have the willpower, because it really is just willpower. We think we want to be healthy and we don't want to be fat, or we don't want this or that, and yet we keep eating the stuff that's making us sick. Why? Because we're too powerless, too weak to resist the temptation of that taste on our lips that we love, but that is killing us. The same with all drinks. That, if you want to look at an example of how broken we are, you just got to look at our addictions and how they have these simple things have powers, because we don't have the willpower to go, no, I don't want to do that. And we stick it, and it all comes back to the emotions again, because it's our emotions. We go, no, we're fine, we're feeling happy, we're not smoking, or we're not eating that crap, or we're not drinking, and then suddenly we feel a bit blur, and whoom, before we know it, the chocolate's ramming down our mouths, the cigarette's out, the alcohol's down the throat. How pathetic are we? I mean, really.
Again, this E-motion, E-go, is the intention of another man, in this case, the occultists, who have defined a way of life for us to live. So they say to us, forsake your heart, give up who you really are, and run with the program we give you. And so you will perform the ritual, because it is a ritual. This is a ritual. This spiraling is a ritual. You will eat the way we told you to eat. You will dress the way we told you to dress. You will dream the way we told you to dream. You will sing the way we told you to sing. You will socialize the way we told you to socialize. You will live in the suburbs the way we show you to live. But it is the E-motion, the E-go of their intention that makes us be the marionettes carrying it out. But our heart is still there. The uniqueness, originality is still there. So it crashes. And we go, oh, fuck, I don't feel good. And then the emotion kicks in again. So we get sucked in again. And then it crashes. And we're going, what are we doing? I don't want to be a morphine addict. I don't want to be a taxpayer. I mean, something's not right, but the clock's going, I've got to go to work again. And to eventually crash, you know, Saturday or Friday afternoon arrives and we celebrate, go to the pub and get pissed. That's that crashing, you know? And then suddenly Sunday night, oh, I've got to get up Monday morning. I've got to be up. The clock's going to go off at 6 o'clock. I've got to get back, get dressed up, get in the car, go to work. And so you have this, and the heart of the man, the unique, is still there. But that intention of a broken will that we are, that program that's running us, that's pulling us, you know, it's like you watch all those zombie movies and you see all the drones. That's what we are. Yes, we will follow your instruction, master. Yes, oh, Freemasons, occultists, we will follow you.
Because they've been very clever. They've taught us to kill ourselves, but they've taught us to do it very gradually so we don't notice it happening. So our children can often eat lots of lollies and lots of crap and they don't notice it, and they think they're fine and they've still got tons of energy and they're running around and climbing trees and going mad, because it's not until 20, 30, 40 years later that the damage from all that stuff fits in. And that's what you know, all those things are a slow, gradual death. But if we were, as 15-year-olds were to experience how we were going to feel in our bodies at 60, that might be a real wake-up call to go, my God, what is it that's making me do this? And to actually start doing it, but because it's so gradual, we don't sort of notice.
There's another point I would like to touch, and that's something you write here on your, I printed the whole paper.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about the light of Lucifer. That is, here you write, man like is a defined man under the light of Lucifer, see candle. But extend a little bit on that, Arthur.
Well, Lucifer is the intellect. Lucifer is our thoughts. Basically, Lucifer is the definitions that illuminate the performance of another man's intention. So a man dreams for you to be a certain way, act a certain way. That man could be part of a group tribe that says, we're going to invade that tribe over there. We're going to conquer them and bring them into us and become part of us. And so our land will reach out and take over more of that land. So the actions, that intention is the light of Lucifer, the intention of the man illuminating. And so what we illuminate is the intention and the outcomes of that intention. Lucifer is just a man-made thing. There's no fallen angel. The fallen angel is man's heart. It's the fall of man's heart to do no harm and to now go against that and do harm. That's what's fallen. So, you know, if you again go back to a few things here, I'll just explain a few things again. Thoughts of the past and the future needs man to exist here and now to think and feel them. If we do not exist here and now as man, no thoughts of the past or the future can be thought or felt, to be experienced. It needs man to exist here and now to always experience what man is experiencing. That's the first one. The second one is, there is no experience that can be brought forth without man being a party to that experience. All experience comes with man. Every story, everything we've ever heard comes with man. So the occultists use this deception. It's man-made, always man to the experience. There is no story of Jesus that didn't come with a man. There is no story of the Galactic Federation with all its channeling didn't come with a man. There is no story of anything about anything that didn't come with the man. It's always man to the experience. So when you can see the bigger picture, you can see the sleight of hand, the deception at play, right? So people say, you know, what we say to people is that if there is no man, there is no dream of life. Nothing will exist. But people say, but hang on, the trees will still be here. The birds will still be here. And I said, but you are a man who heard the question raised by a man. Imagine there is no man existing to both ask the question and answer the question. Think it out. There's nothing. You see, it's always man to the experience. It's man answering because man is existing to come up with whatever man is thinking. It's everything man-made. So we are creating everything. And when we get past all the stereotyping that there is no past or future, there is no time, there's no calendars, there is no first or last, there's no astrology, numerology, that none of these things exist except our participation in illuminating the images and giving our life force energy in the social, inside the fashion statement of that social engineering, we can form astrology and the effects of all the different things of astrology or numerology with natal charts and birth charts. And through all the generations of those who gave their energy to these apparitions, the social engineering, the impact creates the effect. So we can create children in the fashion statement of astrology without even realizing we're doing it. The occultists actually do it consciously. That's why they do transgender. That's why you see a lot of transgender stuff going on today, because they want to break man down. They want to break us down. They want us to forget what a man is, because then that vortex of being transgendered, you know, boys turn into girls, girls turn into boy, and all that social engineering that the occultists do, which is deeply inside Aleister Crowley's world and the Ordo Templi Orientis and all that. You see this because it's the only way they can blossom the new world order with a new type of man who can be controlled and manipulated. A man who's brought so close to nature, so close to reality, but he's been contrived, right? So everything is to man. Everything gone wrong is to man. Everything that ever possibly could happen is to man, meaning we're the only ones that got into this mess through all the generations of man, and we're the only ones that are going to get us out of this mess through all the descendants of man. It's up to each of us to withdraw from this and stop giving our energy to this. The most sacred thing of all sacred things is the uniqueness and originality of a man, and not to define a man, which means we've got to get outside of everybody's heads and allow a man to grow and blossom uniquely without us defining anything for them, right? Because in our true form, we are really, what would you call it? We're not, the social engineering of man brings us very close to what a man is, because we're not male or female, you know? We're not any of these things, and yet we are. Because I've got breasts, I've got nipples, I've got genitals, women have got genitals. But when we don't define a man and a woman that way, we don't see ourselves as being female and male. We don't do this social hierarchical brainwashing that forms, you know, what would you call it? It's like creating communities controlled by women, or creating communities that are controlled by men. You know,
patriarchies
yeah,
and matriarchies.
Yeah, exactly. There's none of that stuff going on.
Because it's all divisive. All this man-woman thing, if you're not careful, it's just really divisive. I mean, why do we want to exclude men? Why do we want to exclude women? Why do we want to? And really, we are all that androgynous. Sure, we have maybe what's a male body or a female body, what we see it. But if you look at, see those stupid things that talk about, you know, the characteristics of a man and the characteristics of a woman, and you go through and it's like, you know, stupid sort of surveys on you, but you generally find that, you know, every man has some so-called female qualities, every woman has some so-called male qualities. So you can't then split us off into this is female, this is male, just because our bodies may be different. We've all got different attributes that are considered in their stereotype of either. Yeah,
exactly. If we're brought up by nature and we're stepping back looking at reality, the whole of Earth is not male or female, right? What's that word you used?
Androgynous.
Androgynous. Yeah.
Well, if you think about animals out there, like no dogs or lions or whatever think of themselves as male or females. It's just the females know they're going to raise the cubs. We're calling them females. They don't know they're a female. They just know that they have this urge. I need to have babies now, and I know what to do to look after my babies. There's no female involved in that.
Exactly. The whole of creation, the whole of a forest is androgynous. All the mountains are androgynous, because the wholeness of life is androgynous. It's neither male or female. It just is. So the sexual stereotyping that inside the occults, that's transgendering man into woman and woman into man, brings us very close to the truth. But we're doing it through the definitions,
and it's artificial.
And the masters who invented these things, the puppet masters who created the marionettes of transgendered, are still in power, and they sit back as the kings and emperors overseeing the new world order, the new type of a man in a new type of system. You see, and they have all the power and all the glory, and we think that we're celebrating Earth and nature and we got it all together, and yet we've all been conned.
But this is what I was going to say, because we have a defined reality. that's why we're here, trying to find something, because if we would have a non-defined reality, man would be in the original dream. I wouldn't be here tonight trying to find something in reality, seeking reality. But because it's all defined to me, I know it's an explanation from someone. I want to define reality for myself. I want to find the truth for myself, know the honest truth, not through someone else.
We each want to be free of this.
Yeah.
Get out of my head. Get out of
Yeah.
my Get out of my headspace. Get out of there. Fuck off. That's how I
the
feel.
problem
You
is
know?
that so many
Yeah.
people, they realize something's wrong and they're trying to find an answer. So then you've got these clans of women who come together, and we've had some of them write to us, a matriarchy. Yes, we have to get back to the days of a matriarchy, and they don't realize the matriarchy is just another definition and another way of being a control stereotype group where the women have control because the patriarchies are bad. Look at the patriarchies and what they
We're better than the men.
Exactly. That's division. That's separation. That's causing this.
The patriarchy. We're better than the women.
Yeah.
Also, our unawareness cause a lot of division, like you say. No?
Yeah.
There's this insight behind everything we say in English is this conflict between left and right, up and down, good and bad, right and wrong, first and last, rich and poor. It's all going on. All the measures. See, the whole of the occults that this idiot invented, that imagined for man to fall into spiritual suicide to bring God out to talk to him, right? Which is madness, because we are that. Is that intention to carry out what he dreamt for all of us in the system that we've been seduced into, right? So we are having to rise up above all this enough to say, hey, I don't need what you define for me to be already what I am and what I need to be. So it is this having the strength of will to withstand that seduction. And many of us who are waking up have been fighting this, even in the pain and the horror that we go through. We fight this in very different ways because we don't want to give up. So many of us, we know things aren't right. We feel it so strong. We just don't have the answers to get us clear. Our work will helps people to find comfort because they get answers. We don't destroy brothers and sisters who listen to our insights. We inspire them because in their unique original way, they will go and continue withdrawing and make changes. But we've got to spread this out. Don't sit around, like I said before, don't sit around thinking, well, you listening to us is enough. You need to spread this out while you are creating your kingdom, while you're creating your food for it, while you're building relationships with each other that are beyond the self-obsession. We've got to get past all that self-obsession.
In a way, the gift of our work is to help people make sense of what has happened to them and how they are in the state they're in. And then from there, boom, it's up to them. We can create remedy in a zillion different unique individual and unique original ways. But it's just, we're showing them the seeds of, look, this is what has happened to you. This is why you're in this state. And if you want to go and create your freedom, these are the things you have to watch out for that will keep, if you're not careful, will keep coming back to bite you, even as you think you're getting out of your freedom.
What we've done, we've mapped out all the mapping, but we also poured in all the unmapping all the mapping. So not only are we mapping it all out, what was done, we're now unmapping it all. How to unmap it all as well, make it all fall down and collapse. And that's the bigger picture of insights. So that's what's got to be the Love for Life ebook, which we still haven't even
begun to write. I mean, that's one of the things that we've talked about before. A few years ago, we used to sometimes get people write to us and say, "What's it going to be like in your kingdom? Who's going to be?" And we used to write and say, "The kingdom will be the sum of all the people in that kingdom. How can we say what it's going to be like?" And it's like they want to know the rules, they want to know the regulations. Like, you're missing the point. Yeah. You're missing the point. There are no rules, regulation. But it's like, or can I buy into your kingdom? And we're going, you're completely missing the point. It's not about commerce. It's not about owning.
You come and gift to the group, and we use the system together to further on the unmapping and getting out, right? We get people to write to us and they say, "Is it up and running yet?" I said, "Yeah, well, come over here. We'll put a shovel in your hand and be part of this, the kingdom being up and getting out." They're waiting for us to have it all done. They think that somehow a few of us are going to do all the work and then the others will come. Look, it's staggering. It's staggering. Look, we could do it with another 10 people right now. Seriously, we could do with another, but we're not going to beg for that. It's got to come from man's heart freely to want to come and get involved, because it's going to take that kind of effort to not only give us some freedom so we can get the ebook done, to be something that we can help spread that fire, to spread the unmapping out everywhere. And we need to do it because we want the wider communities to know that we're not a cult, we're not a sect, we're not here as space cadets, we don't take drugs, we don't smoke dope, we don't smoke cigarettes, we're not involved in any religion or cults or sects, we don't follow anyone, no one follows us. All we see is life as a gift on a do no harm path, meaning it shows up as creating abundance all the time, and we're just sharing it freely, and we like to give it to you and your family and your children. So why don't you, if you'd like to be participating, we create that. We're breaking all the fences down, we're breaking all the boundaries down, and as that abundance grows, the food forests are growing, and with that there's no cults or sects and no more societies, and no one's bringing all that bloody mapping out bullshit back into paradise. So it's a quiet, peaceful thing, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And we say to people, sell your home, come over here, get involved. Well, okay, if you don't think you're capable of doing it on your own, well, come over here and do it with us. Sacrifice everything you got, sell up everything you have, put it into Fiona's bank accounts, bring it us. We will handle the karma of that responsibility. We will do the dirty work, because it's the only way it's going to work. Some of us have to handle that responsibility. That's what makes us tribal leaders. We're not fucking to be followed. We're just accountable for the responsibility of undoing all the mapping out and make sure nothing comes in to undermine it any step of the way, which means we have to always see the bigger picture and be able to keep pointing it out. We've had people here who live with us, you know, they can't cope with it. At some point, they're going to blame me. Seriously, they'll blame me. They won't, because Fiona's always the nice and the charming and the one who fits in, but she's strong. But I'm the real sledgehammer baseball batter. And I'll come out, and in the moment, I just keep saying, and I'm the easy target, and I know that, and it comes with the territory. But the point is, it's not about me. It's about the dream. It's about the legacy of the dream. It's not, you know, I would like to have my body buried and have a huge redwood or a big bunya pine or some huge growing out of the compost of the body. You know, I don't want to, you know, be remembered. I don't want a tombstone. You know, and that's truly the truth. I want to be forgotten because I'm just a brother like everyone else. A lot of people write to me thinking I have all the answers.
I'll put a big glowbird piñata over your tombstone, written shit stem on it, and I'll hit it with a baseball bat.
Compost of shit would be the most beautiful thing to say. You know, but the thing is that it's going to take that kind of sacrifice, and that is to me the true message of what Christianity hijacked from this truth. When they bring everything unto Christ, to Jesus, it was not about that. It was to bring it unto brothers who took on the responsibility to lead, not as in leaders, but to inspire the way out of this fucking mapping into an unmapped territory where we can allow children to be raised up unmapped, right? So we have to hold it and keep it together strong enough so our ego does not, because we all got it, we got this in us, right? And we can't assume it's all just going to disappear. But can we make the decisions each step of the way that is for the unmapping and not for the self-glory of the ego? Or do we collapse and fight and become aggressive and jealous and envious and depressed and all the other emotions that come up because the ego of that broken will, that submissive man, is what they live for, and not for the bigger dream of the kingdom dream where the heart is. This is the big one. So, you know, yeah, if you're a carpenter, come and give us a hand. If you're plumbers, come and give us a hand. If you've got money, okay, let's buy the bigger land. We don't need to go and steal it all. Let's just buy it all, do it all, and grow a kingdom. And we start withdrawing, but we make sure while we're doing this, we got to also, we need many of us like singing the song of kingdom out in the wider communities, just like the Jehovah Witnesses are going out, and the I guess you could call them like the Hare Krishnas. We don't have to be radical like, but we need to let the wider community know this is who we are, what we're about. I mean, I don't mean us, all of us. Why are we doing it? Because we're spreading our community immunity, because we're letting people know we're not your threat. We don't want to vote politics. We don't want the system of slavery. We want people to be unmapped and give the bigger picture, hence the ebook that explains it all and the videos we put out there, so that you understand, you comprehend it. It's going to be a team effort, because if we don't, okay, the greatest situation that will happen here is annihilation will happen everywhere, because we dreamt it that way, and very few of us will remain. If we want to not cause this kind of annihilation, so many of us have to sacrifice everything: location, family, economics, careers, sacrifice it all and bring it into a kingdom dream like the one we're holding. We're not saying we're the only ones. And pour it all into there. And let us inspire you. And you inspire others as we together work together to build this living example of a kingdom dream that people can see with their own eyes. My God, there's no politics. There's no supermarkets. But yet they're all happy. They're peaceful and calm. There's no drugs. The children are running around freely, and there's no pedophiles. There's no sexual abuse. There's no crime. There's no one stealing anything, because each man is so fulfilled being the man. There's nothing to covet another man with. You comprehend this? So unless we go to this extreme, all you're going to have left is the holding on to the money. I've got to hold on to what I got. I've got to hold on to what I got. One day. But really, it's just the ego. It's the occults. The land title deeds won't free you. The money won't free you. You know, the certificates and contracts of title to anything in this system won't free you, right? Even the name you have won't free you from the man that you are, because the name of the man in the system comes with all the emotion, all that crap that we bring into the relationships, especially when we get more intimate with each other. Can we be strong enough to withstand it? Are we able to build these bonds? Because that is what a true kingdom is about. This is what they hijacked back and turned it into Christianity and turned it into the pagan rituals and all that, you know. And what Buddhism, I think you'll find that there were key men and women who lived those lives no different to what we're holding today. We're not claiming exclusivity, privilege, or that we're the seeing reincarnation of these archetypes, these people. We are the seed of the heart of the man that dreams these dreams, and we act that way just like they acted. Because when you say fuck everything, no more, okay, that doesn't mean we're martyrs. It doesn't mean that we're Jesus Christ reincarnated. It just means that our heart is so strong, and we're saying no.
It means also that love is becoming our currency. No?
Yeah, but
Not
without
money,
defining
love.
it. Without defining it.
And without sentimentality.
Yeah.
Because it's when we can love without sentimentality that we have the courage to say to our brothers and sisters the things that they need to hear, even if it's not what they like to hear. You know,
You know what the best form of love? When you see a guy get up early in the morning with a shovel, and he shoveled all day digging, and he comes home exhausted, and he walks in and nothing's said, and everything is said. The love's been said. It's all said. No, they're having to say anything. When the hunters and and gatherers, not hunting for killing, but we get out there and collect to bring the abundance back for the tribe. It's already said. We don't have to say anything.
There's
no
motion.
association to it. We don't have to sit there and celebrate someone.
It's amazing how often we, if we don't get an acknowledgement, we feel that, we're being sort of ignored or something. And yet, if we're not doubting and if we're not full of our own insecurities, we don't need an acknowledgement. If we decide to make something nice for the tribe to enjoy, or as you said, we work hard all day, we shouldn't be doing that for the acknowledgement we're going to get when we do it.
We do it for the dream that we hold.
Yeah, and because we were inspired to get out and do it. No, which means we shouldn't. And it's amazing how often we are reliant and how often we do things. What was that Scott said? Fabulous. We're selfishly unselfish. So we love to do an unselfish act, but really we're doing it for the accolades we get. But wow, isn't she unselfish? Oh, she's so giving, so generous.
Isn't she special?
Isn't she special? And if we don't get those accolades, we're kind of like,
he's so nice.
But, and then which just shows you our reasons for doing our generous acts was all self-obsession in the first place. Because we're doing it because of what the accolades we get back that make us feel better about ourselves and feel good about ourselves, and we have our place, we have our position. And you see those good workers in our communities who they're always the ones there at all the school things and all the school things, helping, being the stalwart person that everyone goes, wow, isn't she marvelous?
Isn't she spiritual?
Isn't she fabulous?
She's a goddess.
But
she's spiritual.
But really, a lot of it is because that is our stereotype that we've fitted into That's how we define ourselves and what makes us feel acceptable about who we are and what we're doing.
And that's how you start a cult.
And that's not real giving generously when you don't want. I mean, the real giving out generously is when you know your neighbor's in trouble and you go and put a box of food on their doorstep and they don't even know who it came from. Because you're not doing it because you want them to say, oh, thank you so much. Look, you just want to give them, and you don't want them to have embarrassment or anything. So you make sure you do it so they don't even know.
We say, both of us agree on this, that the real kingdoms, once a few of us have got the beginning of this up and it's spreading out, the real power will come from the simple everyday men and women who happen to be European serfs and commoners, Asian serfs and commoners. You know, it doesn't matter. They'll come out of Italians and Greeks and the Slavics and the Swedes. It'll come out of Jews and Christians. It's the everyday simple people who work hard. Those who can work hard and have got the work hard mentality are the ones who are going to do the great work. They're the ones who are going to pave the way out of this in a huge scale. They just need to have the confidence to overcome the doubt and uncertainty that we are capable of overcoming the survival of the self-obsession that creates the land title deeds, that creates the bank accounts with the name associated, because I've got to think about me because no one else thinks about me in my best interest. So when they have given the opportunity to go, oh my, wow, look at this kingdom. These people are the true revolution. And it will spread like wildfire, man. And there is no cult in the system. Not even the war will stop man, right? It is the everyday simple serf and commoners of that brainwashing. They are the true power. Look, when Gorbachev and the whole Cold War collapsed in the late 80s and the Berlin Wall came down, Russia entered the true dark ages because Russia couldn't feed itself, because it didn't, well, people thought Russia couldn't feed itself, because the whole, from collapsing from communism to transition to capitalism, there was this huge flux. And it was all these Russians, again, this is in the Ring of Cedar books, and you can read this elsewhere. They called them the Dakas, and the Jahnicks were the peasant farmer or the weekenders, whether you had money or not.
Yeah, the Daca was just a small plot of land.
And they grew food.
Farm. Yeah.
But because there were so many Dakas with Jahnicks, the collective force of all the Dakas fed Russia. And Russia rode out this period, right? And don't believe what the Western world tells you through the media about Russia, because so much more is happening there that people don't realize about, because they're more look, the older ways are still tied to these, you know, the peasants of Hungary, of Russia, of the Ukraines, and of even all those whole regions out there, and other parts all through Asia and Japan. I mean, look, the Japanese, when that whole radiation thing, the health, what was it called? Fukushima.
Oh yeah.
It was the Japanese peasant, all the everyday people that got together right nearby, and they built the bridges of support and food in the whole areas. It wasn't the government. The government did nothing.
And we were
it was the Japanese people.
Like people were leaving water at each other's doors.
It was,
and
you know, here when we had
each
heavy rains a few years ago up north New South Wales, halfway up the coast of Australia from where we are, and the rain was so bad. But what happened? A lot of local people started kicking in, and trucks started coming through the local peoples, bringing everything that was needed to get it to the people who were closed up by these massive floods. It wasn't the government. The government didn't do anything about it, except they helped build the roads and all the slaves that did it. The great impact, the first wave, came from the people. And you'll find the same thing with kingdom. It'll come from the people. And when it comes from the people through the kingdom, the whole system collapses because they don't need it anymore. They don't need to go to the polling booths. They don't need to go to the military to stand up and fight for the rights of their land, because they've gone past all this now, right? Then comes the thing, you know, when you have enough of us woken up, what's the occults going to do with their, whether they have some 1 million Chinese army or whatever? Are you going to invade and kill us all out in the open? Is this what you want to do? Because that's what you've been doing. You see, and their greatest weapon is bluff. Most of the time with the occults, it is bluff. It's so close. It's so subtle. Sure, they may appear that they have all the power, but they don't at all, because they need us to be that power for them, right? Now, a lot of occultists run when you start to confront them. But they don't run because truly underneath they're just scared. They don't want the secrets of their methods to be validated or to be recognized. So they run to keep the secret unknown. So the tactics of this subliminal way of manipulating through definition and inculcation continues, because it's the only place they get their power. Without that, they've got nothing, because that's all they've got. So that's why they run. They don't run for any other reason. So when you, as us as a group, like I say, we're here, let's spread the kingdom in the Southern Highlands. Let's break all the barriers down. Let's break a whole suburb down. Thousands of us come here. So worry about it. We're not going to be drug addicts and whatever. And if they want to infiltrate some of the nutcases and run it through the media, let them. But the truth will be known by the wider communities. The point is, what are we without the security of food, shelter? What are we without the security of the basics of land? What are we? Are we scum? Are we slaves? Because this is what it all comes back to in the end. The question is, are we fucking slaves? Are we scum? Right? And when we realize we're not, the whole system collapses just like that. It's over. The bluff has ended. And that's what we got to do. Are we prepared to work together and be selfless? Sure. If people like this man becomes a front of that side of thing, it's not a leader. It should be all of us together, inspiring each other. We take over a whole area. Seriously, take over a whole area. Move in, migrate. Don't worry about the lots and the plots and land. We're not here to harm anyone. And we do this feeding each other. We do this growing together, because when you get it that big and you grow it that big, you're creating something beyond their ability to control anymore. And when people in the wider communities who live can see that this is not a revolution through violence and weapons and all that, and it's simply about man moving on land, growing food and sharing the abundance, and that it's no threat to them and their children, even in the houses they're living in, the system collapses. The lots and plots and title deeds and numbers all disappear. But what does happen, brothers and sisters are rising up as the living man on the land of the abundance of this dream of life. And everything else that isn't part of that heart thing is gone. We've got to end it. There's no magic formula waiting for some miracle magic wand to come along to do this. We are it. And you just got to overcome this doubt, this fear, this uncertainty, and actually take on that responsibility. It is life and death to a point. They may take some of us down. They may do some crazy things, these psychos, especially all their lackeys who work under them. But when there's enough of us, if one goes down, 10 take the place. If another one goes down, 30 take the place. If 4 go down, 400 of us take the place. If 10 of us go down, 1,000 of us take the place. And this is how we end it.
Babylon, you can kill what can never die.
Exactly. And that's how we end
Simple.
hunger. That's how we end homelessness. This is how we end poverty. This is how we end injustice. Because once you get rid of it at this scale, it all goes. Because then it's about, right, each of us creating the abundance, sharing the abundance. It's not like sitting there scurrying over who's got what and holding on, worrying about another day. If every moment, every day is filled with life of abundance, you don't have to hoard and hold on to it and be paranoid.
Yeah, and
with
when
self-obsession.
Also, when we talk about music, me, I love music personally, okay? But my level of awareness is to a level where I don't let myself guided by some stuff in there, and I enjoy it. You know, I'm able to enjoy it. I know I'm still under the programming of Babylon, but at least it makes me feel good, you know, when I listen to music, because also I'm able to scrutinize a bit the lyrics and stuff, since my level of awareness has grown.
This is how we use the system, Jahnick. We use the system for the greater dream, and we communicate the greater dream through the music, through the books, through the literature, through the internet, for that short window until it's all gone, right? So we don't use music to promote self-obsession. We use the music through visual imagery and talking and storytelling. We are the playwright and all those in the playwright forming those groups, working together in different areas to spread out this kingdoms. And it doesn't have to be the word kingdom, right? We don't have to be the K-I-N-D-O-M. No, we're not a king, we're not a king, and we're not dumb. We're just truly man of the dream of life to do no harm and live the abundance. So we've got to fix the damage we've done. All the time that we were consumers of supporting the slave system, it may take 30 years or 20 years, all of us working together fucking hard, day in, day out, to break it all down and spread this thing out until it doesn't exist anymore. And then the dirty work is all over.
Anything that's worth doing badly is worth doing badly until you get it right. So we must get it right.
Exactly. All the effort we put into the system going, all this effort is the same effort to get a kingdom going. Nothing, the effort you're putting in every day now is the same effort. It just may be that the same effort, instead of putting in and being self-obsessed on Facebook and talking on Facebook while you go to work and feed your kids, now you're going to work with the garden and the soil and work with your brothers and sisters and opening up your till sheds and and you start working together and respecting and healing as we go along. So there is a way. There is a way to fix this.
I think
that's why we've been on the coalface of this thing, working this thing out.
Yeah, but it's to sit down. It's to sit down together like we're doing tonight, today for you, tonight for me, and to talk it out and to reflect, because the reflection is part of the solution. And also another part I want to talk about too is the materialism propaganda that we live in. Is there a lot to, we look at other people for what they have and not what they are. So that we're very, very confused and we're very lost into material. Not that we should not honor the world of materialism, like the world of materiality, like the material stuff. We have to honor it also, because that's what we're using tonight to talk together. But I think we're lost in it a bit, and that inflate also the self-obsession of pride, of false pride.
It is. And what we're talking about, this materialism is self-obsession. We are in the supermarket as the self-obsession, relying on another man for us to feed the self-obsession that we live for. There's a lot of people now under the spell of love. It's love. But they're in the supermarket buying the love from the shelves. They're still reliant on the slave system for this love to be performed. So we need to break this down. So yes, we use the materialism of the system, but it comes from the inspiration of the bigger picture that we hold, that collapses the supermarket of hell, where there is no more self-obsession available for us to shop inside it, to feed the self-obsession that we have, that shows up as materialism, because they're just physical material forms of what we've risen up from the dead to carry out the self-obsession of that inculcation programs that defined our fake existence. So it isn't love that's going to fix it in that way, because defined love only is going to keep you inside the supermarket, meaning we will not go to the extent to collapse the supermarket of hell. The system will stay. We will just change the syntax of our bullshit talking to protect the infrastructure of the system. So it's still there. And it's there by all the occultists who hold that in place to protect us from each other, so that we don't end up in chaos, right? And that's what they're relying on, the bluff. They're relying on the New World Order of this scam to pull it off. It is to pull this off. What we've got to do is temporarily, maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we use the system while it's up as best we can to rally the troops. Look at this as war. We are in war, but we're not military. We have to act with the discipline and the mobilized force of a military, but we're not under the inculcation of the military. We are under the influence of the bigger picture that we have to use together to bring down the whole supermarket of hell in this life for the greater good of our children and the descendants to come, right? And we take on that responsibility to end it in this life. So there is no more internet. There is no telecommunications, right? There's no more war. There's no more militia. There's no more police force. There are no more hospitals in that way, because each of us will sort it out at the local level, because we're all living locally. We'll fix it at a local level. And as the truth spreads, and children have been brought up without that inculcation, you will see what we now define as miracles. You're going to see the everyday power of how we can regrow limbs. People have lost legs will regrow legs, regrow arms. People are blind will see again. Hair that was gone will regrow. All these things are there, gone dormant, because we are in a submissive state. Our bodies become submissive because we've accepted the higher influences of the occults to run our lives, which is the diets that we eat. It's the emotions that forms the relationships that play out those emotions, those egocentric, self-centered things. When all this goes and collapses, the inspiration of the heart shines. It's already there. It will no longer be submitted under some greater influence. It's here. We fix everything.
We all have a heart of gold, but it's to find the key to that heart that's hard.
It's an action. So that's why we say a kingdom is going to come out of hard work to pay the price of our selfishness as consumers in the system, in spite of whatever the sentiments were of being a good man and wanting to do the right thing. All the while we were consumers inside the supermarket of hell, buying the broken man will, buying the broken man will, singing the songs of the broken man will, wearing the clothes of the broken man will, acting out the rituals and the cults of the politics of the broken man will, going to the Olympics of the broken man will. It's insane. This is so fucking crazy, this stuff, guys. But it is so simple. We have it. What we are is already there. We just have to allow it to be there and not shut it down anymore. And if we do that, we are compelled to work hard. Not compelled as under the program. We will work to fix all the exactly to undo all the damage we did all these years while we were asleep.
It's like we were given
don't run away.
It's like we were given a house and we trashed the house. And now we want the house to be nice again. So what have we got to do? We got to clean it up.
No.
Fix it.
And that takes
Rebuild
time.
it.
You know? That's all it is. So
Rebuild it.
we've been given Earth, we've trashed Earth. So now we got to fix the damage done, and the fixing of the damage involves a complete rewiring of the thinking, and then we'll start making the right choices for how we fix up the damage done.
This brings in all the stuff with the Christians, because we come through Life for Life all the years. We've had such a procession of Christians who've come into our lives, but Jesus has come to save us. We're already saved. Jesus is already creating, and through God, a new earth for all of us. So I said, yeah, that new earth is us. We're going to create it together because we have the free will. The responsibility is with each of us. Do you think that this God that you believe in, who gave you this home that you call Earth, that you've now trashed, is going to let you into his paradise of his home for you to trash it again? Because that's all you're good at, right? Do you think he's going to let you? Could you, if you let your home to some friends who trashed your home, and then you have to go and repair all that damage, and they come back to ask you again, we'd like to borrow your home again. Would you lend it to them? Could you trust them? You couldn't, right? Because you've got to protect Earth and all that. So do you think this God would let these maniacs who all think they're saved, who've trashed this living home, let them back into God's paradise? And because they can't take responsibility, because they don't know what that is, and carry it out? So this is what it's about. It's not about, and we say to sometime, well, look, if there is a Jesus coming, isn't it better we get on and do the work he would do anyway? So when he comes on, he's got nothing to do because we've already done it all. We fixed it. You know what I mean? I mean, isn't that how simple it should be?
Yeah.
I mean, look, another way to look at it. A mother who loves their children unconditionally. They want their children to grow to be even greater than them and everything they've done, because there's no limits. There's nothing defined, because that's what love does. Do you think that this God, when you say this to this God who created us, dreams for us to be less than God? That dreams us that we can be held back in any way possible? Don't you think this God loves you so much that gave you all the freedom, unlimited, for you to do whatever from that you're gifted with? What kind of God would it be that keeps a man less than God? Because that's a handicap. That's something that's disabled. That's something that would be, lunatic, psychotic, scum, shit, right? That's not a man. A God of unconditional love would create something unconditional. So it's only the subliminal programming of the occults that make us think that we are always less. When they talk about God, there's that thing again, right? There's something great, but we're less than that.
Something special.
We're sinners. We've got to, we need to be saved and rescued. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
We have free will.
Validating our existence outside of ourselves is something we do a lot through God, through any validation we can find without us doing the effort, of creating our own. Because Babylon #1 product is a false salvation. So if you fall in it, you're cooked, you're fried.
But Babylon is Rastafarian, is rock and roll, is hip hop, is
Babylon. It's us. Babylon is us.
Anything and anything that a man lusts for is Babylon. It's baby long.
Yeah.
We're baby long. We're so long being babies, sucking on the social engineering. We're long babies. We don't want to grow up, because when you grow up, the great savior, which I drop the dummy, spit it out, be the man.
Yeah.
Create it, be it. It's built into us. We have the inheritance and the legacy of everything of our ancestors. We've got it all. It's still there. If the blood's flowing through your body, you still got it all. Don't doubt it. But are you prepared to work hard? Do you want to overcome laziness, apathy, denial?
Maybe Fiona can interfere with that. Not interfere, but can tell me your opinion on that. Same like the act of putting a pacifier in the mouth of babies, just to shut them up, to not hear them cry. Like, I've never gave a sus, call that a sus en français, a pacifier, I think in English. But I think that's creating something too.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But part of the whole problem, I think, is babies don't fit into the system. But we have to try and force them to fit into the system. Yeah. And that's why we have problems with them. That's why we have problems with them crying and problems. They should be able to wake up and just be happily following whatever instinct, intuition at the moment. But, oh no, we got to get up because older sister has to go to school. I've got to shove you in the car. I've got to strap you up. I've got to take you. Oh, he's crying. Why is the baby crying? Because all this dissonance, all this noises, and that's why we need it. And this is why we have problems with our babies going to sleep, problems with our babies in all sorts of ways. It's because we're trying to cram them into something that they're still got their purity and the innocence that they can feel it's not right. And a lot of families, the TV's on, the music's blaring. And this poor baby, it's like this overload of stimulation that's just. And no wonder they scream. No wonder they cry.
The mothers of this, right? Yeah. I'm the good mother. Social engineering. Before she opened her legs to have sex, to create the child, inside the social engineering of that dreamscape where the child comes out of the womb. You see, the social engineering is so powerful because it's in the water of our breath and it goes through every cell in our body. So when you have been inculcated, you're going to create that in every child that we create, even though the essence of that child still contains the purity and sincerity, because that's the heart that beats. If you don't, there's no heart that beats. You can't create an artificial heart and create artificial life out of it, because that's a robot. So these women that Fiona is describing are all inculcated, and they're carrying out the inculcation as a mother, doing everything they do with their good heart. Their heart's there, but the fucking brainwashing is so powerful. But it dominates.
I think you're right about the dummy, though. You could say, or the pacifier, as some people call it, you could say you're already teaching that child very early on that they need something external to comfort them. Just by that, just stuff the dummy in, stuff the dummy in, stuff the dummy in. And many children become addicted to that. And I remember someone we know saying, I remember being really shocked because I was brought up without television, as I said. So my parents are always sort of, even though, very much in the system, but they were sort of aware of not exposing a baby to lots of harsh sounds, all that sort of stuff. But I remember someone, it's actually in your family, I'm not going to mention names, who said, oh yeah, when my first child was born, I brought her home, stuck the cradle thing right by the TV so she'd get used to sleeping through anything. And I'm thinking, are you serious? How about that baby allowed to have a quiet, peaceful space to sleep in? Or how about even better, they should be sleeping alongside the mother, sleeping alongside an animal. I mean, it took me a while. Our fourth daughter finally, I had sleep with us all the time. And it was so much better because I got so much more sleep, and so did she. But it took me, others I tried, but I couldn't. But it was interesting. I found that how I actually learned to sleep with her, because it's the others I hadn't, I've had a bit, but I was waking up all the time, you know, to check their breathing changes and you wake up. I actually got it with her because I actually tucked her up so my body could feel her body. And I think because I had that physical connection, we could just sleep. She'd sort of wake up a bit, stick her on the boob, roll over, we'd go back to sleep. And it was just so much better. And that was so much more. And she would sleep so much better. We stick our babies in a cot in another room far from us, and then we wonder why they don't sleep well. Well, because they should be sleeping surrounded by some sort of warm body, whether it's a sibling, whether it's an animal, whether it's the parents. So when they wake in the night, oh, that's all right. This, you know, there's nice, warm life. There's family there.
Can I just point out, because I know we're going to wind up in a minute here, is that we are all damaged. Our 4 daughters, our last one is less than the rest of them, but they are all damaged still now. We are damaged still now, in spite of what we can hold, you know, all the information we're sharing. Now, in working together to create a kingdom, many of us sacrificing everything to create a kingdom is because we all want to have the space. So I hold that space, you hold that space, you hold that space, you, the viewers who hold that space, we work together. We create this kingdom so we all have the time out to contemplate without the pressure. Now, again, Fiona carried those responsibilities so I could get out of the system, so I didn't have to think about mortgages and debts and credit cards and all that stuff. So I was free here, putting on weight, stressing out, going into my trauma to work out the system and all through the arguments and scrutiny, right? Now, let's take that to another scale. When we come together to create a community as a kingdom, it's because we use it as the cradle of life to give everyone the true freedom to begin to face their shit without the other pressures of the system coming in and pulling them, you know, between the ears. Go to work, clock, alarm, bills, tax, you know, war. When we do that for each other, we can all heal. Each of us can heal because we'll have that freedom to really contemplate without those pressures. Now, that is a huge part of what is before us. But we've got to, number one, get rid of the fucking system. We've got to get rid of that of our lives. Then comes the amazing. The amazing is just going to be amazing, man.
But that's what I said today in my video. I had that kind of reflection. I said, when you start burning Babylon inside you, because Babylon is you, you can point everything outside of yourself. Take a look in the mirror. You're going to find Babylon, all the evil stuff, everything. It's all in you. So, but the moment you start to discard this from your life, you have no choice to, I know you said it's evil a bit, but you have no choice to rise. It's something that will happen naturally. I don't force anything here. It's natural. It's a process that I cannot avoid.
Well, as I said before, once you make that connection in your thinking to what's going on, once you get a sense of the mapping out, you can't go back to sleep again. You can't turn it off again. You just can't. So even though you can try and suppress it and deny it and all that, it's still there, and you never find a way again to put yourself back to sleep.
Again, it's going to be the firepower of our physical effort in putting labor to a dream that we wake up and go to bed with, and wake up and go to bed day after day, that builds the infrastructure, let's use system words, of a kingdom where this can all unfold, right? When you watch these, you the listeners watch these videos we put up, when you read this stuff, don't just sit there on your laurels and think, oh, I've got the truth. You spread it. You argue with your family, but don't create more disturbance. Pick and, you know, work it out. There's a lot of stuff we've written about these things, but don't just sit there and waiting for something to happen. You have to be the living embodiment of the labor of that truth and set an example.
So best of all, start growing some food,
exactly.
Start creating a garden, and notice, allow people to experience the joy and abundance and the love that you give them. It's not about setting yourselves against your family, setting yourselves against your friends, but you will find out who your real friends are. That is for sure. There will be some people who will no longer be comfortable being around you, but that's fine. If you don't have the doubt and uncertainty, you won't mind if they drop away, because you realize they're not your real friends anyway. They're not accepting who you are anyway. And the more you can put love into your garden and start enjoying that and sharing the abundance of that, the more you'll find you don't need that.
Well,
anyway,
those people see you as the commercial item on the shelves inside the supermarket. They form these fake relationships of that emotional attachment. So they are already what you call your friends. They're carrying the trolley of life down the supermarket of the system of hell, and you are on the shelf as that friendship. And they want something from you that defines what they believe they are. And when that is threatened, it threatens. And so the normal tendency is ignore, apathy, denial, shut down, and move on and find others inside, because their relationship is inside the supermarket of hell. Their relationship is not outside of it. Your real friends is outside of all of this. And they're the ones you build your real bond until others inside will prepare to break out. And so we have to be the pioneers, the comets that set the trail of light so others can pick up on it, right? But still no one to follow. It's just a choice of letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. But it is hard work. It's not going to happen just miraculously because we're dreaming and thinking peace and freedom. It comes from hard work, labor. Are you prepared to work hard by dismantling the supermarket of hell and recycle it into a living paradise so that you can produce children, everybody else, who are not brought up inside the supermarket of hell anymore? And if some of us can wake up before we get too old, while we're still under this inculcation, we could be some of those too. But we need to be seen to be doing this. So you starting your own garden for you're on the wrong track.
Yeah.
You starting a garden or a way of life for you're on the wrong track. You're still inside the self market. You've got to create gardens for the wider community to enjoy. It has to be something that feeds the wider community, that inspires the wider community. It's not about my garden, my land, mine. Look, the responsibility that we have is already there. That sacredness is already there. But the system supermarket is so huge that even though, like here we are in East Barrow in a rural suburb, all around us, our supermarket is the supermarket with every pigeonhole, like in the chicken farms and all that. Everyone's pigeonholed, right? They don't know how to break out of that because their distrust is still very powerful. Some come and talk to us, but they talk. In fact, most like Fiona more than me because I'm too much of a threat to the ties of that supermarket relationship. They can only handle me in small bites. And I'm learning sometimes, okay, but I don't give a fuck. I just go bang, and say what I need to say. And if they hate me or want to run off, that's fine. But maybe that shaking up might come back in a few weeks' time, and then Fiona might meet them and she sort of soothes them in another way. And then they come back.
Pacifier.
And then they come back with another baseball bat that I give them. Some people come and stay here and those dynamics happen here like that too. So, but the point is, unless we seem to be doing it, we're not going to be able to help inspire others to unhinge from their self-obsession, where their name with nature, with permaculture, with soil science, with consciousness, with freedom, with whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because unless we get rid of this, let it all collapse, we can't do it. We'll never fix this. It won't happen. So this is hard work. Hard work, but you got to do it without no emotional attachments to any outcomes. You don't do it because you want something out of it. You do it because you are that already, and there's nothing else to live for. And that's what's happened to this man. I wake up and go to bed. This is all I can talk about now. I have nothing else I can talk about. I'm not interested in anything else, even though I'm still damaged, and I still want to watch football. And I still like to do.
He can talk about football.
Yeah, I like talking about football. And in fact, football's been great because it gets me to network and keep bringing people. I talk about these things. And a lot of them think I'm a fucking idiot. But some of them are thinking. You get them thinking. But,
you get them thinking. The point is to keep planting seeds, because you cannot force people to comprehend a message that they're not ready to comprehend. You don't know if they're ready to comprehend it. But the fact of you plant a seed, one day they might see, hey, Arthur told me that. Arthur was making a garden in his yard. And
we're still doing it. We're still doing it. It's still here. So we haven't given up, you see. So that's what you got to be so vigilant. It's literally you go to your grave with those basics: food, water, shelter that raises up abundance of freedom and truth and joy and all that for everyone, right? If we do that, then all of us will learn to let go. We will learn to let go of everything else that keeps us still hooking to some part of that system, supermarket horror hell. You know, that it's basically Luna Park. It's like we're inside the entertainment of an amusement park.
House of Mirrors.
Yeah, House of Mirrors full of
on the roller coaster of life.
Yeah.
Little
up and down emotions.
Yeah, and we're inside these little boats with monsters coming out, and we go, ah! And then the next one, ah!
Life is like a seesaw. There's up and down.
Mm-hmm.
We got to stop this.
But we got to tie this all together and rise as one. That's the goal. Rise as one. And all on our sides doing work. Like you said, it's to take action. At one point, you know, me, I'm a man of action. So for sure, building a garden for me was inevitable at one point. And I like to be outside and the vibes of nature. And I know that's the way I have to do. I have to reconnect more with what I am, nature. I'm not made to be put in a box. Box car, box job, box home, box this. We're so boxed in. It's crazy. It's time to realize that there's no box and get out and plant seeds.
Exactly.
And, you know,
look, your heart, what you're saying is awesome because that's what we all aspire to. But don't forget the occultists. They will create examples where they inspire a local community to grow food on the streets and do all this. But you'll find that everyone's still defaulting to the system. The background is still the system because they still hold on to the doubt that they need the system with its protection of order so that we can provide the food on the streets. We've got to be better than this. We still have to do all these things, but we have to be willing to cause the system to collapse because our heart already is all these or natural order, right? So watch out for the subtleness of the New World Order because it's been designed to come that close to the sentiments of our heart. But it will only come with us needing it to protect us so we have the goodness of man's heart, living with each other peacefully under the order supervised by the Federation of Occultists, who are all the descendants of these fucking nutcases, right? And we give all our power away to them. And remember, every man, woman, and child in that system has been brainwashed. And eventually, every single man, woman, and child will be transgendered, right? But that can't happen because the whole of the system will collapse with this lie. It can't be sustained.
No.
In spite of how much their sentiments are that they're doing the right thing or how good they are. It's a lie. Going against the heart of every unique original man. So it will be devastation. And that's why I was saying before, when you look around and you see all the remains of all the civilizations, all the remains, it all went down at the same time. It didn't happen gradually. All this is lies. This annihilation, look at it, and to end this for us, look at your immune system. Do you want a compromised immune system where a lethal disease comes knocking on the door of your life and your immune system opens the door and the dangerous disease says to your immune system, do you mind? I want to come in. I want you to share this leg with me. And your immune says, yes, sure. All is one. We're all in this together. You have a right. Come in and have this leg. I'll share this part, but da-da-da. Do you want that? Or do you want an immune system that literally comes like an elephant gun and blows to smithereens before it can even come knocking on the door, but it doesn't do it through violence, it does it through wholeness and transmute it, right? Now, if you are that, you have to be vigilant and discerning and be strong and watch out for the cunningness of the occultists spinning their lies where your heart is still being drawn into community and permaculture and nature and stop the Amazon and stop the destruction to the ocean because they've intentionally done all this, right? We've been saying this for a long time. The New World Order is not the current chaos. The New World Order is the remedy brought in by all the good guys who come out of all the societies and lodges where all the bad guys who engineered all the chaos that brought man to its knees through all the corporations and political machinery and everything else that's happened through religions that brought the Amazon to its knees, that brought the oceans to its knees, that's brought the societies to its knees that they founded, that created such fucking hell everywhere that every man's going, we have to be seen to be doing so. Please stop this. Please fix it. And because the Freemasons have their finger on the pulse of all the chaos, in one flick of a switch, they can say, we stopped it. We're going to bring a peace for everyone. And everyone on their knees will be raised up under the lie of their heart in a paradise that's contrived.
And it will be gardening. I mean, if you notice now, it's becoming so fashionable, gardening, or everything starting to be promoted everywhere. Go grow your gardens, as he said, free food. There's lots of things happening in Australia where people growing excess food, give it to the poor, and it's all great. It's as he says, it's like the mirror of what we should be doing. It's the mirror of true freedom, because it's still in the box of the system, and it's becoming another stereotype, another box. So this is what we have to work out most of all. There's so many communities out there growing their food, but they're still stuck in the system. They still have not been able to address the mapping
Old
out,
Testament, New Testament,
recognize the stereotyping that they're still operating under,
occults,
which is still keeping them firmly in the system. And then, as he says, you know, as the powers that be, as they bring in all these things, we run to accept them, to love them. So it's like they're getting to the ultimate level of slavery, where we welcome our slavery, our slave conditions, because in a happy prison. We think they are the remedy. The new slave conditions that we're being offered, we will think, if we're not careful, we will think they are the remedy that we're looking for. And so we'll take them and we'll be the happy slaves, dancing away, thinking we've got it all, but not realizing that we're still in this prison. It's just now our prison has been repainted. Now our prison has been beautified, and we think it's lovely.
Can I just
under the illumination of the light of Lucifer, like you were talking.
But now it's a beautiful, natural, green, eco, love nature, one with nature dream that we all, and again, as he always says, it's so close to truth, because that is what we truly aspire to in our hearts. And that is why we have to be so careful that we do not have the blinkers on, that we just run full pelt towards it, because it sounds like the answer to everything, and we fail to see that little lie that is still saying one man can have control over another man.
It was planned exactly like this when they fought, before they even invaded every single tribe of man across it. This was already planned out and encoded in the Bible. The Bible, you know, and you'll find that that they're working to the grand plan of the grand architect, where those who are at the cutting edge of this carrying out are the bloodline descendants, the direct bloodline descendants. The founding fathers are the children of their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. And that's why you'll find in the music industry, there'll be certain artists who are of this bloodline. There are certain actors, certain people in fashion, in corporations involving in the motor industry, and whatever industry, they have these bloodline connection. It is not the Illuminati. It is not all this other religion. It is just a family like ours or yours, who want all the power, who hatched this because of that guy who put it in their heads and manipulated them into forming Mystery Babylon, because the secret of Mystery Babylon is the agenda of the outcome of what they work for. And they had to invade every single tribe across Earth, inculcate them through war and chaos, bring them into the Dark Ages, and then raise them up through the Dark Ages to the light of a Lucifer, where they will celebrate the glory of what they've worked for all this time. It's been a master plan. Remember this. We're all supposed to be unique and original, not one the same as the next. That can never be defined. You can easily see their lie, because it relies on the definitions that inculcates a man to bring off the fake idea of a paradise, right? And you'll notice that the education system is required to get us to this point, to bring the new world language of English and the new world language of politics and one world government. It comes off the back of all this education. Without it, It's the gobbledygook coming from the men who came off the ships of the unidentified floating objects, who came onto the lands and started talking to the tribes of man who'd never seen these ships or uniforms or clothing or sounds, and it's going right over their heads like gobbledygook as they say to them, "Hello, I'm Captain Admiral, such and such of such and such, and I've brought the Westminster system of government with us. We're going to bring Medicare, and we'd like to introduce it to your people, and we want to show you what voting and I'm just making this a bit of a satire, but it is gobbledygook. It goes right over their heads because it's Martian talk, right? They can't make sense of the constructs, the definitions. So they all had to be educated. All the resistance had to be removed. So all the vulnerable young ones had to be raised up, who then raise up. So look in Australia, not even 200 years this has happened, over in a few generations. To forget the old traditional ways to this way. This will happen pretty quickly. So don't
here in Canada also.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's not long.
Exactly. And behind all that is ritual sacrifice and pedophilia, which feeds the broken will, that keeps this vortex of a suspended state of man's broken will, not strong enough to rise up and fight.
And then Babylon comes and talk to you about immigration.
Exactly.
Passports. Customs.
Isn't it a fantasy? Immigration, like I am the alien. We all been alienated too, also from our true nature. They don't look very far for aliens. We are the aliens here on Earth.
We get one kingdom off the ground, we rise it up, we destroy passports, we destroy customs, we destroy everything, and from that, it's duplicated until the whole of Earth is a kingdom again, and there's no longer race, culture, creed. There's no titles, no standings. There's no conditions and contracts. There's no name anymore. We don't even have a name because we already are who we are. People smell you. Your smell is unique. People see you. They see you uniquely. Your sound is unique. You don't need a name because you already are. You already are. You don't need to be defined.
And everywhere you go, if you want to journey across Earth, you're only going to find brothers and sisters who welcome you because they don't want to do harm, and they know that you don't want to do harm. Yeah. So they welcome you in, they feed you, give you a bed, you go on your way. And then we don't need money, we don't need transport systems, we don't need any of that, because everywhere we go, there's abundance, and everyone has abundance, so no one's grasping or needing or anything. We just give. And
best of all, there's no more volcanoes erupting, no more lava coming up. There's no more hurricanes or cyclones. There's no more snow as we know. There's no more hailstorms. There's no more floods. Everything changes. The whole climate changes because we changed. Yeah. And as we change everything because we are the holder of the dream of life. If we hold the living dream, then the living dream is it. If we want to hold the lie, then that is what we have. If we want to change, we have to be that change and then hold that bigger dream, but watch out for the self-obsession. Don't think that we're some amazing God as we hold this bigger dream and we still want that glory raised upon us. You can't, because that's just perpetuating this. And in fact, look, I've got to say one more thing, and I'm not going to prove this to anyone. I actually hold a dream of a fire, a psychic rain fire. It is a fire of hell, more powerful, it's more lethal than any fire man's ever experienced, and it burns through the life of every single man who lives the lie, so that they can fulfill the dream of what they dreamed for, and they get burnt and drop dead. Every single man who lives this dream will just drop dead, and let them have it. They won't even know, because it's a harmless fire, right? And it happens in less than 24 hours. It's so fast. And all that's left standing is every man who is not under the will of the lie, that their heart is stronger and more powerful. And all those who fell is the great compost that we will bury and raise up the paradise with everything else. We don't need to devastate the whole of Earth. All we need to do is hold the dream. Every single man out there, if you want this lie, you can experience the outcomes of your intention. Let you have that. If we hold that dream with no doubt and see that fire burn through the lies of all the liars and see it in this life, in the here and now, we will have the greatest fire we've ever seen of a disease that we created for all those to fulfill the intention of their power and control and corrupting every single man to be the supermarket of hell, because that's what it's going to require. And that's how we bring the system down.
Yeah, burn the evil man and his evil
Burn,
ways.
burn,
Oh, no,
burn
we don't burn them.
this ring
They
of
bring the
fire.
burning upon themselves.
This
That's
ring
the
of
point.
fire.
Yeah,
The point is not we're burning them. We don't wish to cause harm to any of our brothers and sisters. But if they
spiritually.
still want to keep living that lie,
Let 'em
even
have it.
when they know it's a lie, the outcome of that lie is destruction and annihilation. And
To
that is what they will experience.
So let them have it. Let
Yeah,
them
it's
experience
not-
free
It's
will.
not we want them to die or we want them to be
No,
hurt.
no.
We will experience the outcome. And if we keep living this lie, we will all experience annihilation and destruction.
Yeah.
So it's a choice.
So let's just remove any emotional attachment in the outcomes. Allow every man to have the free will to experience the outcomes of what they dream for. So we can't save or rescue anyone. But at the same time, we use our free will to allow them to fulfill what they're dreaming. Let them have it.
Yeah.
And it is, look, it's like in the Bible, when Moses and the Israelites the Jews wanted to flee Egypt, and the Pharaoh did not want them to go. And there was a series of things from plague and pestilence, all these things that happened, until the last fatal one was every single firstborn throughout all of Egypt will die, including Pharaoh's own firstborns, until Moses could be freed from the right. If you look at it, it's the same thing, twisted. Let them experience it. Don't have any emotional attachments to any outcomes. We are not evil. We can't fight the free will of a man's life. If they want to live from the dream of the lies they live for, they're actually saying, I need inculcated slaves to have the glory of my power, privilege, and exclusivity performed, because I need all that to happen for me to be the CEO, the board of directors, the investors, the stockholders, the presidents and prime ministers, the judges and the politicians. You name every single title can't be performed without the inculcation of English and brainwashing that raises up the educated slave system. That is what the shelves in the supermarket held, and all the products are built out of in that. So we cause it all through a fire.
Yeah.
If we hold it. And we do it with
that.
unconditional love.
I like when you talk about fire.
We do it with unconditional love. Brother, if that's what you want, you can have it. I give you my permission. And if you give your permission, experience what you dream for. And it is a fire that will burn and destroy in less than 24 hours. So you have everything that you've met everything that you hold of that lie. Because it is a lie. Why is it a lie? Because you have to destroy another man's uniqueness and originality to conquer that man, break their will, so you can perform this ritual. The drones who work as your fucking educated slaves. So you will have this lie come upon you as a fire.
Yeah.
That to me is the most peaceful way to fix this problem quickly. So how many of you want to hold it? Go for it, because that's what we're doing. I'm doing it.
That's it. So thank you very much, Arthur and Fiona. Again, it was a pleasure having you on the Tru-Mon show tonight. It's always a great reflection. Like I said, it's part of the solution. We will keep, keep on going, because the shitstem is cracking, is something I can feel, because I'm being the change. You are being the change. So once you start being the change, you start to sense things cracking, also the nonsense around you, like going, dissolving. So it's just a matter of we have to do the work. It's going to be a hard work for sure. But if you're willing to do the work, you're more than welcome to do your part. It's a big cause.
Use the power wisely. Use the power of life wisely.
Yeah.
Use your heart with vigilant and discernment. Be very, very switched on to the bigger picture and carry it out. We don't go into conflict, and we don't react emotionally anymore. We use this wisdom and do what we need to do, so this madness stops.
So
right? That's what we
discipline and intent is the key also. It's good to think and talk, but we must, like you said the other day, walk the talk. It's not just about talking, and it's about doing the work, going and grow gardens, grow your own food, become more self-reliant. Like you don't need Babylon so much. That's what we gotta get to, and I'm starting, like you said, in that way, in the righteous way. But it's
that's what we do. Good on you for saying. Sorry, I don't want to cut you short, but I am cutting you short, apologies, but it's when you're working in the garden, if you're holding the bigger picture and you see everyone dying and fading away in the great compost, right? While you're working with the living, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
That's
Makes
how
me
you
feel good.
power wisely. Everyone has the free will to withdraw from this nightmare if they choose to. If they don't, and we should be setting an example so it penetrates through multimedia, through the internet. This needs to spread. Don't sit around and think this is spreading because you watched this video. You put it up on your YouTube channel. Put these videos up on all the YouTube channels you use. Make more walls. Make more Facebook walls. Get out there and spread it.
Make your own videos.
Make your own videos if you want to. Do whatever. But spread it and let people know while you are creating these abundant food forests that are not imprisoned by self-obsession. And give everyone the free will choice. It's a choice now of life or death. You have the option of eternal life or eternal death. Which way do you want to go?
We have the choice, the dream of life that was intended for us to live a free, happy, and beautiful life, or the nightmare of Babylon. You pick it, you choose, it's yours. It's all there on the open, in plain sight.
Realize that the nightmare of Babylon is the choice of death. You know, it is.
Exactly.
Death.
So be very conscious in your action and your and for sure. Anyway, thank you very much for being here again, Arthur. If we don't stop, we'll keep on going forever.
I just got to say we put up on the Love for Life website a couple of days ago, Breaking the Illusion of Self-Obsession Junkies, the background to the system series Love for Life videos, July to August 2017. I'll put in the about section of ours and I'll give it to you to put into yours so people can go and see all the pictures of how Babylon works, right? Yeah. And other links to all these other videos. And you can use that to circulate and spread that to your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'll update the description as soon as I see it. But we will be back next week again, probably again on self-obsession. I have a lot of other stuff that I have to, and I'm going to...
Still wading through it.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's a big subject. Until we get through it all, I think we're gonna be here for.
Well, mate, if we're getting through it all, we'll be communicating through the water about breath. You're out in the garden, we're out in the garden, and we're not on the internet. So that's when the show ends because it never ended. We're carrying on.
Exact. So thank you very much. You're right on this. We carry on, and that's what we have to do. Carry on. Carry the truth. You know, we have a job to do here. It's not just doing our everyday work at our jobs. It's to carry the truth for humanity. And the truth is what it is. So it's your experience. It's what you experience. Like Arthur says, first party, never mind explanation and all kinds of stuff coming from left to right. There's going to be hype coming to us from left to right. So just stay focused. Keep your eyes on the prize, people, and rise and shine.
Thank you for the opportunity to spread this. Bye, everyone.
We're out.
Within our world, watching dreams without blue skies floating by. Why are the gray clouds forming overhead? I'm trying to breathe, I'm following the path mapped out from the start. Why do my dreams keep moving out of sight? Moving out of sight. Ooh, I'm trying to fly, but where's the light that keeps me down? Sunshine that I seek shines faintly through the smog, layers of fantasy images that blind us to our lives, blind us to our lives. And I'm trying to see, I'm juggling with my things, I'm struggling with the cold, and I'm spinning in a vortex of burning words, of burning words. Ooh, and my head's on fire. Oh, where's the love inside my heart to wake me up from storyland, from my deep sleep? We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save our lives. We'll save the children, we'll save the old ones, we'll save our earth when we save our lives by doing no harm. Ooh. We're living for the love that lights up in our hearts. We're living for the dream of a world of do no harm. We're living for our kin, our tribe of conscious men. We're living for the truth, no more waiting for saviors.